Welcome everyone. I'm going to call the February 18th, 2024 regular scheduled board meeting to order. I've asked Commissioner Perkins to lead us into prayer, and Commissioner Motley is going to lead us into pledge. So if y'all would all please rise.
Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we come, dear God, with all our hearts and all our minds. We come, God, thank you for how you have blessed us throughout this day, dear God. We ask, dear God, your presence be in the midst of us right now, God. Look on those that come, dear God. Oh, God, pray that you bind every attitude, dear God, and give gratitude. Bind hate, give love. And, oh, God, bind confusion, sinful of peace. And, Lord, we come, dear God, this board, dear God, to handle the situation that come before this board. Ask that you guide us, oh, God. Help us to make the right decision, God. Bless those, dear God, that come, dear God, that they will be satisfied with the decision this board make, dear God. And, Lord, we thank you, oh, God, for being our present in our midst. Thank you, Father, in Christ we pray. And I ask you to look upon our nation, dear God. You bless our nation, God. Look upon our president, dear God. Look upon our leadership, dear God. And look upon, oh God, our first responders, God. And look upon all of us, dear God. And we thank you in Jesus Christ and we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everyone. It's standing room only tonight. For those that don't normally attend this meeting, I'm going to kind of give you a quick synopsis. I've separated these comment cards. I know a lot of y'all are here to speak about item number 8 in regards to the bar pit. So save your comments for when we get to item number 8 on the agenda. Just save those. We have a public concerns and comments to address the board on all other business matters. So at that time, come forward and talk to us on those matters. And then if you have a particular item that you're here to talk about, save it for that item when we get there. Probably number 8. Anyway, the first item on the agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes from the February 4th, 2025 regular scheduled board meeting. Any commissioners have any questions, comments, concerns on those minutes?
None. So moved.
Okay, I'll take a motion by Commissioner Perkins, a second by Commissioner White. All in favor of approval of those minutes, signify by aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0 on those minutes. The next item on the agenda is the public concerns and comments. They keep coming. Public concerns and comments. So anybody here wishing, I do have one, Mr. Broders, I see you. I have 3 that are not in regards to item number 8. Mr. Keith Broders of 970 Southwest Pine Mountain Road, Lake City. Welcome, Mr. Broders. You're a regular.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. I wanted to let you know that what I want to talk about is the most important thing according to the Founding Fathers. I really doubt there's hardly anybody in the room here that could probably answer this question, and that is the First Amendment that was proposed at the Constitutional Convention was not about the rights that we know, the right to freedom of speech, press, religion, petition government for redress of grievance, and assembly. That was not the original first proposed amendment. The first proposed amendment was to limit the size of congressional districts to no more than 50,000. In Florida right now, we have 1 representative in Congress for every 785,000 people. That's a little bit of an over amount. And frankly, one of the biggest problems that we have is that we, the people, are not being represented. It's the bankers and the Wall Street corporations that are being represented. And frankly, in the state of Wyoming, they have 1 representative for 580,000 people. We have 1 representative for every 780,000 people. There's 200,000 people in every one of the 28 congressional districts in Florida that is not being counted. If Florida had the same representation as Wyoming, we would have 37 congressional districts instead of 28. The other thing about representation here in the state of Florida, the Panhandle consists of 16 counties. Those 16 counties have 3 representatives in Tallahassee. Miami-Dade County has 16. That's not what we call equal representation. The northern part of Florida is not being adequately and properly represented. In 1960, the population of Florida was 5 million, and we had the same number of representatives and the same number of senators then that we do now. If the population increases fourfold, the number of representatives should increase fourfold. And so these are some of the reasons, some of the things that need to be taken care of. Every county in Florida should have a representative. We have 67 counties, and our Senate should consist of 67 senators. The U.S. Senate has 2 senators for every state. And in the case of the states, every county in all of the states should have a representative. Create a true bicameral legislature where there is a check and a balance. Right now, we have 2 houses in Congress, but they represent one constituency. We, the people, basically do not have representation. It's the Wall Street bankers and corporations that are electing the officials, and they are answering to them and not to us. Also, lastly, I'd like to say, please come to my class next Saturday at City Hall at 3 o'clock. I'll be talking about natural-born citizenship, and I'd love to have you come and participate in the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Broders. Next up, I have Mr. Vince Smith of 9194 132nd Terrace. Mr. Smith.
My wife's coffee cup, about 1700s or thereabouts, the quote on it, history teaches everything, including the future. And I want to make that point because I'm going to talk about getting in debt past our ears. Friend recently was talking, I've been here about 10 years. Friend was talking to me about the truck route. It was going to end the problems at 129 and 90 there. Well, the truck route is now known as County Road 49. It's been out there however long. The bypass was never completed. We still have the problems downtown. It's been over a decade because this was done before I came here. So we're told now that, by the state, I guess, that we lack the dollars in their 5-year plan to resurface the whole thing. So there's going to be 2 miles that's not going to be resurfaced on 49. City, a few years back, did a sewer contract with the corrections facility out there. Put in piping, put in treatments and all that. About a year later, as I've been told, the corrections facility canceled the contract and reneged on it, and the city doesn't have the money to spend. The city is hurting. If you don't know it, I know you all do, but if you don't know it, there's a lot of debt that the city is trying to pay off, and that's the reason a lot of things are not being done in the city. The city just tried to change their city garbage pickup, and they had a proposal for the last meeting, city meeting this month, which would involve buying a new truck with an arm lift and the big carts, 90-something gallon carts, to pick it up. It was going to cost residents $2.50 additional, $2.50 a month for pickup. I can tell you there was an outcry. There was a line of people standing up there to talk about that and the problems that that was going to create for the community. Those are a couple of examples to me to apply it to the current situation with the new convention center, shelter, whatever they're talking about building at 129 north, north of 10. We know that President Trump is going to, okay, I'll be real quick. We know that President Trump is cutting funding and programs. The states are going to have less discretionary money. And we're looking at a huge multi-million-dollar project here with design, construction costs, and all that. DeSantis is, DeSantis, the governor's backing it. Yeah, DeSantis has 2 years left. What's going to happen? Where's the commitment from the legislature or a contract or something that will protect the citizens of this county from inordinate tax increases? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Next I have, it just says R, maybe Latuso. Welcome, sir. 9721 180th Street, McAlpin.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. They've been doing tree cleanup for months now. I'm wondering who's paying for all of this?
State of Florida.
The state?
Yes, sir.
Okay, they're going to pay for the street and the damage that's done from the trucks running up and down the road, and what's going on with
I don't
the
see.
wood that they're picking up? What are they going to do with the wood?
They're shipping the wood.
And
They're hauling it to several different, I know several places, sites around the county where they're spreading it out and leveling it for, I guess, it to decay.
180th Street was the only viable position to put the wood on?
We didn't pick those locations.
Well,
The private landowner, I'm assuming the contractor reached out to different private landowners in the area and leased that property or rented it or what have you. Like, we had nothing to do with where that debris was put.
okay, so he's now running a commercial business in a residential area in an agricultural area. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. It's not I don't understand how he's running a commercial.
He's running a business out of there. There's trucks going past my house 7 days a week from day up to day to the evening, and I got to listen to these things day in and day out. And I don't think it's right.
So do I. They go by my house every morning and every night too, all day long.
Well, somebody
Yes,
had to
sir.
decide to put it down there.
It wasn't us. Go ahead, Commissioner White.
They're scattered around in the county. It's not just there. There's one at Lee's Nursery in Brantford.
Right.
I mean,
There's one within a quarter mile of my house.
Well, then it's not too strategic if they're constantly going down 180. If they could go down 89 to 252 and go out that way too once in a while, and I wouldn't have to put up with them all day, every 15, 20 minutes going past the house. Between the Jake brakes and the shifting and the noise, I can hear this all the way in the back of my property. I don't think it's right. Nobody's going to pay me for my inconvenience. I'm home all day. I'm retired. I don't want to listen to this, and I don't think it's fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak under the general comments and concerns from citizens tonight? I haven't forgot about item number 8. We'll get to that in a minute. All right. Seeing none, we will close public comment. I got 2 time specifics. We will come back to the consent agenda. I'm going to start with number 8. So there's an order here that we'll start with. And by all means, when we get done with this, if any of you guys are just here for number 8 and want to leave, our board won't take it any disrespect. I see you have a small child. If any of you guys want to leave after item number 8 is done, feel free to do so. We still have some business to tend to. But at any rate, we will start item number 8. At 5:35 p.m. or soon thereafter, as the matter can be heard, hold a public hearing to consider special permit request number SP-25-01-01 by Dennis Price, authorized agent for Verlin Sherrill, to be granted a special permit under Section 14.7 of the Suwannee County Land Development Regulations for special permits for excavation of field/borrow pit. Mr. Ron Meeks.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, sir, Mr. Attorney.
before we get started, just as a matter of housekeeping, because there will be so many people, we can do it in court, we can do it here. Can I swear everybody in en masse so that way we can get that knocked out all at once?
If you have, Mr. Attorney, good point. I have 19 of these. If any of you that have filled this out or any of you that think you want to speak that haven't filled this out, it's policy, procedure for the county attorney to swear you in so that everything you say is the truth, nothing but
If
the truth.
anybody's going to speak in this hearing, please stand.
And raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear affirm testimony you give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right. If anybody said anything different than the guy next to you, let me know. Okay. With that, Your Honor, or with that, Mr. Chairman, we're ready to go.
And I will add to that, if any of you that have, these were handed to me in random order. I don't have them sorted through. I don't even know 3/4 of you guys, but I want to go down this list as I do it. If we get toward the middle or the end, I mean, if you want to have, if y'all have a public person or a nominated person to speak on your behalf, that's fine. You can get 7 minutes. But if all 19 of you can want to speak, that's fine too, but please hold it to 3 minutes so that we can move along and we're not here all night. Nonetheless, Mr. Meeks, staff presentation.
Mr. Chairman, board members, the application that you have before you is a special permit request, number SP-25-01-01. The application has been made to request a special permit request from the Board of County Commissioners for land excavation, otherwise commonly known as a borrow pit. The subject property is located in an agricultural 1 zoning district. It's located off of County Road 137, just north of 216th Street, which we know is Market Road. The approximate size of the property is around 62 acres in size. Currently, the property is vacant, sparsely scattered residential in the area. The entrance to the property is off of County Road 137 by means of an existing driveway that is topped with millings into the property, maybe for 150, 200 feet or so. Then it turns to dirt. The request is to, in the LDRs, there's a provision that requires someone to make a request for the excavation of fill, which would be commonly known as a borrow pit, and using the material for a variety of reasons, house pads, mobile home pads, roads typically is what these borrow pits are for gaining access to clean fill material. The LDRs lays out the process in which an individual would have to go through in order to request their property to be permitted to be utilized in such fashion. But the county's limitation is just approving a land use, saying that the property is adequate to be used in such fashion. Typically, beyond us giving land use approval, there's permits that they have to obtain through the Water Management District and there are potential other state agencies that are involved in this request. Now, this would be land excavation. This does not include mining. So this is not blasting. This is not removal of lime rock or crushing of lime rock. We're strictly dealing with a clean fill material. The process of the LDRs is that the application usually first goes before the Planning and Zoning Board of the county. The Planning and Zoning Board has no authority to give a final approval for anything. The process is that when something is heard by the Planning and Zoning Board, it is an advisory decision only. So the Planning and Zoning Board, we had a public hearing. The recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board was recommendation of approval. However, the Board of County Commissioners holds the ultimate authority to approve or disapprove any request. You can uphold the Planning and Zoning Board's recommendation, you can make your own decision, or you could adopt certain conditions with your approval, which has been explored in the past as well. Most of the special permits that come before the Board of County Commissioners is one single public hearing process only. However, you have a handful of special permits that are called out specifically, and this being one of them is a two-step process. So it does have to go before the Planning and Zoning Board first and then to the Board of County Commissioners. So we've already been before the Planning and Zoning Board. This is the second hearing before the Board of County Commissioners. So with that being said, you have a proposal, you have an application before you. The area of the property to be utilized is outlined. LDRs does require a 50-foot setback off of the property lines for a vegetative buffer. And then, of course, as you dig, you cannot establish a hard wall at that 50-foot. You would have to gradually phase that in so that you excavate the areas, and then there's a reclamation process behind that once the amount of fill has been removed. I don't want to speak on the specifics on the actual depths of the excavation. The applicants are present, that they will present their application. They have an agent that is very knowledgeable in the area and can answer those questions specifically. But you have in your agenda packets a resolution for approval that is everything that is written always for approval with the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board as well. So at this time, I would enter the file into the record. If the Board of County Commissioners has any questions of me, I'll be happy to answer them at this time.
The file's admitted as one.
Thank you, Mr. Meeks. Any board members Have any questions for Mr. Meeks? See,
So I have a,
yes, sir.
I don't know if this is the
Commissioner Mobley.
time or not, or we need to listen to some of the other ones, but yeah, I live in that district as well, and I do have a few concerns as far as some of the people I've talked to. Is there any way that we could implement a few things with it? Have they done a contract yet or no? What's on the app? I mean, I was wanting to see about if we could, on the front part, if, you know, it was to go through across the front 300 to 400 feet of the driveway, would the applicant be, maybe pave the driveway and plant a 300 or 400 foot buffer on the front?
Yeah, I understand. So you're talking about maybe some limitations?
Yeah, maybe come up with some limitations, and then on the, is there a 50-foot buffer?
50-foot buffer is required around the perimeter of the property, and that would be, you know, contiguous to all of the adjacent properties. Maybe if you want to have Mr. Price come up and go over
Yeah.
like the certain depths
Yeah,
that
he
they want
could.
to do, and then basically what that reclamation process looks like and how they plan to implement the excavation of fill on site. And then, of course, like I said, you know, some of the conditions that were brought up with concerns specifically from the Planning and Zoning Board. There was things brought up like dust, and I know maybe maybe Franklin might have been on the board at the time. We handled some of the mining activities on the south end of the county, and how some of that was rectified was, you know, during dry months and summer months when the soils are dry, that they you know, use a water truck in order to wet down the haul roads if there's, you know, an issue with dust. So any of that can be explored as conditions and things like that, and limited hours of operation and things like that. I know the LDRs, specifically for excavation of fill, limits it to, you know, Monday to Saturday, daylight to dark is its limitation, so it doesn't allow it on Sunday. But, you know, the board could always explore other conditions, you know, on their side as well. And I know certain conditions are agreeable, you know, by the applicant. But seeing that they're here, I would probably ask them to come up and specifically address their application and what they want to do. And then, you know, if the board has any questions, we can follow up at that point.
Fair enough. Mr. Meeks, question real quick, though. To be clear, on any limitations or conditions that this board may put on that special permit, should it pass, who enforces those?
That would be the county. I mean, so they would fall under our code enforcement office. If there is a specific condition that's added to a resolution of approval and someone's in violation of that approval, then it would have to be pursued upon by the code enforcement office, and they would have to be supplied copies of the conditions that they agreed to. And if they're not adhering to those conditions, then given an opportunity to correct. And if they do not, then it would be a hearing before a magistrate with the county.
But so that the public is aware, due to new Florida statutes, there are no more anonymous code violation reports from the public. You have to either one, I guess, a drive-by and a county employee notices a violation, like, okay, that's visible, that would warrant enforcement, or a violation or a complaint filed, which are no longer allowed to be filed anonymously,
Well,
correct?
You know, in a situation like that, we wouldn't be driving by the property to check it out every
Right.
day anyway. So normally what the situation would be is like if we had a condition about in dry months using a water truck, you know what I mean, to wet down the haul road or something. Certainly understanding that the neighbors in the area would probably contact the county and say, I know that this was a condition. It's extremely dry. They're not adhering to what they were required to go to. So then we would then go to the property, make contact with the owners or the lessees and say, hey, this was part of the conditions of approval, and if we're not operating in those parameters, then we're in violation.
Thank you, Mr. Meeks.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Perkins.
Mr. Meeks,
Yes, sir.
according to LDRs and all of the other regulations, they met everything for permitting?
Yes, sir. It's an accepted usage within an A1 zoning district. So, I mean, it does require a special permit, but all of the other conditions have been met.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Hale.
On the heels of your question there and Mr. Meek's answer, as far as the code enforcement side of it, I mean, like you say, given it something we approve, is that something that we could have, the board would have the power to set up to say, hey, we're just going to go out there, send someone out there monthly, just to check on things, make sure that
Yeah, I mean, you know, the way that the statutes are set up with
Or
these code
quarterly or
complaints.
whatever, I'm just giving an example.
You know, that, a lot of that is to prevent a lot of this anonymous complaints to just harass a neighbor. You know, this is a little bit different in that this is a special use permit that's been requested of by the board, and the board has the authority to grant with conditions. And so if the counties impose the restrictions, I believe it is within the county's privy to make sure that those are being followed.
And one other thing that I wrote down here, you mentioned reclaiming the land once it's been dug. Do we have a timeline on that? You know, once they quit digging that area to reclaim that?
A lot of that falls within their water management district permits. I think Mr. Price can speak to that a little bit better as far as their timeframes and everything. But you know, they can't. You can't just dig a hole and walk away from the hole.
Right. That's
you know,
what I'm saying.
There's a reclamation and then a potential usability of the property in the future, what that would have to look like.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meeks. Mr. Price, you want to come up, please, sir? Anyone have any questions for Mr. Price?
I haven't been sworn in.
Oh, I think you, okay.
I didn't raise my hand because,
Do you swear affirm testimony you give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Any board members have any questions for?
If Mr. Price has an answer on how long do you anticipate the property to sit once you're done digging that area to reclaim it and to make it look something other than a pit, whether it be the first 5 acres, first 15 acres, whatever it is?
Well, the requirements that are going to be in the permit to the water management district say that it has to be, when there's no more activity on a certain part of it, then that reclamation will commence. So if they start digging, sloping it 4 to 6 to 1 slopes, and as soon as they're not using that slope again, they should start grassing it, planting pine trees, and walking away and never touch it again. And that'll progress as they go through the whole digging process.
Mr. Chairman, what's the depth that we're looking at?
But it's a pretty rolling topography, and the depth is going to reflect the rolling topography when they're done, and it probably averages 10 to 11 feet, but there's some points where it's 14 feet deep, and some places where it's only 4 feet deep. So it's varied in that respect.
But the maximum depth would be
14.
14 feet.
Any other commissioners have any questions for Mr. Price, the agent for the applicant?
Would you have a problem with planting them on that 50-foot barrier around it? I've noticed some of the residents had emailed saying that the barrier that's there, would you have a problem with putting 5 rows of pine trees 10 foot on center around that?
Well, the permit says a vegetative barrier, and what's not vegetated will have to be vegetated.
Yeah.
So yes.
Like pines
we've already
or
talked about that.
maybe cedar trees? I know cedar trees probably won't grow as good as the
faster.
pines, but
Yeah.
I seen some of the pictures where the neighbors might have had some that were kind of thin, but wasn't really enough to
Yeah.
maybe keep the sand off of them. Just
Right. Yes, that
if
would.
it has to accommodate everybody, you know. So, all right.
And we may bring you back up later on after we hear some of these other concerns and comments when we get to that part.
I'm sure you
If that's
will.
okay.
Yes.
All right, anybody else for Mr. Price right now? Okay, thank you, Mr. Price. Any other questions for Mr. Meeks? All right, at this time, we'll open the floor to public comment. I'm going to start at the top. I have first Ms. Pamela Van Vliet, 20671 County Road 137. Okay, welcome, ma'am. I think it's VANVLIET. All right, I got it right.
I was just wondering if they should.
No, you're good.
Yeah, come to the microphone if you would, please, ma'am. Welcome.
Hi there.
Yes,
Hey,
ma'am.
how are you?
Okay. Thank you for your time. I just want to urge, of course, we're against it because we live on the adjacent property, 120 or 1,200 linear feet on the property line. And we have some major concerns. I know Mr. Price has done a lot of research, but he did the research on behalf of Bubba site prep. He didn't do the research on behalf of the people living nearby or the impact it's going to have on our environment. So we feel like there should be an environmental impact study done. We also feel like there's going to be a traffic hazard. I don't know if anybody lives in that area and drives those roads, but there's a lot of dangerous turns. There's three dangerous turns that they're going to be making, and the information that I'm telling you is based on what they told us at the zoning meeting, which way they're going to turn and how they're going to get to Lake City where they're going to be dumping the sand. So I brought pictures, and you can see there's like no visibility here.
Ma'am, are you?
Yeah, those are right.
Are they the same one?
No, they're all different. They're all
Just hand them and they'll pass them down.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're different. You can see, like if you're turning left, I mean, there's lots of times that I pull out and I think I have a clear, and as soon as I turn out, there's a car right on my tail. And these are slow-moving trucks, and the speed limit's 55 there. We also have a lot of accidents on that street. On the application, they said the road was sparsely used. That is not true. We had an accident January 29th, right at the site of the property. We had an accident the next day involving a school bus. There's multiple bus stops along that route. So we have some concerns about the traffic, and we think a traffic study should be done if this is going to be approved.
Okay.
Also, I have a concern about the property value. No one wants to live next to a borrow pit. We did not move to that area to live next to a borrow pit. We moved there because it was a private, quiet, bunch of pine trees right next door. And now to think that we're going to lose, our property value is going to decrease. There's multiple studies proving that. I can email them to you. There's a professor at the University of Auburn that conducted multiple ones that you can lose up to 30% of your property value living adjacent to a dirt mine. And I know this is not a dirt mine, but the only difference is the size and what they're doing with the dirt. Also, we've put about $200,000 in improvement and infrastructure into our property in the past 2 years since living there. And so now those trees that you see on the application that are surrounding, they're not there anymore. The hurricanes took those out. So we're gonna sit on our back porch and see the dirt, the trucks, hear the dirt trucks coming in, hear all the machinery. And I know at the zoning meeting, they really downplayed it and act like it wasn't gonna be noisy. But if you hear a mosquito nonstop in your ear all day long, it drives you nuts. Same thing, we don't wanna hear that. So I think that was a good point that you had about the established vegetation buffer, because at the zoning meeting, they just mentioned it being like, we just won't mow this area. So it's just a bunch of dead grass there, but that's different than having a row of trees. So that was our other concern. And then also, that area is a recharge zone. And so I have some water concerns. I don't know what that's going to do to our wells. We have livestock that are dependent on water. And at the other meeting, they downplayed it and said they're not going into the aquifer. Well, you don't have to go into the aquifer to affect the groundwater. And I know there's a well that monitors the safety of the water, but it's 7 miles away. So a lot of this information I got is from the Suwannee Valley Water District application. It goes into a lot more information than the application they submitted for this meeting. And they said they're going to be digging 14 feet deep, up to 10 years for phase 1. 10 years, and they're going to do it in phases. Phase 1 is 10 years, so we're talking about the next 30 years we're going to be living next to this. And all the neighbors are going to have to deal with it. I don't know one person who lives on that street that would be for it. Also, just want to point out that there are 77 gopher tortoises on that property. Like I said, the other application has it listed. This one didn't, but they're protected. And I want to make sure that they don't just go in there with the bulldozer and start digging. It's very expensive to rehome them. If you have more than 10 on the property, you need a certified agent to rehome them, and you also have to rehome them to a different location. It can cost up to $6,000 per tortoise. Are they going to spend that money on this property? And who's going to enforce it that they do it right? I don't want those tortoises crawling on my property next door. because they don't rehome them correctly. So anyway, I just think there's a lot of other options available that weren't explored as far as the best place to put this. There's land for sale all over this county and the next county, and I don't know why they're putting it within 18 or 19 families are within 1,000 feet of this site.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm just urging you to vote no, because it's not going to be good for our community. Thank you
Yes,
for your
ma'am.
time.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Mr. Morrison?
Ma'am, you're asking that the board consider these pictures in making its decision?
Yeah.
All right, so these will be admitted as band belay, composite exhibit 1, numbering 7 pictures, Logan. And if you could please pass these down, so that way
Yeah.
she has them.
Because I feel like it's a dangerous.
We can keep
pulling
those.
out the trucks
That's what he's
there.
asking.
Just making sure we have a clean record.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Next up, I have Mrs. Nadine Smith of 22066 45th Drive, Lake City, Florida 32024. Welcome, Ms. Smith.
Well, the First Lady did cover most of my concerns. I live in the area. I'm concerned about my water. I'm concerned about the property values going down. But mainly, Market Road is 45 miles an hour, and people fly down that road, and so do the drivers. And we already have big trucks going down that road. How long is it gonna hold up? It's not the best of roads anyway. And I think that the environmental study needs to be done before anything happens. And you're digging 14 feet down. You can't fill that back in. And we get more hurricanes or water, large rains, it's gonna be a mess. We already have sinkholes all up and down that area. And now you're gonna create even more? Come on. Think of your people that live there and the voters that are gonna vote for you, depending on how you conduct yourselves in these. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Next, I have Mrs. Jennifer Holden of 21031 County Road 137, Lake City, Florida. Welcome, Ms. Holden.
I don't know what to say. I just say it's not going to be a good idea. I have a son that has a trach, a ventilator, and all the dust, the dirt, the gas, and everything else would not be healthy for him. He would not be able to come outside.
How far do you live from there?
From what I'm assuming, that's my landlord over there. It's right on my property line.
So you're, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Commissioner White.
The house is 50 foot away from the property line where this.
Hey, if you're going to speak, you're going to have to come up here too, because we can't, or we're going to have pinballing
other
around
half over
conversation.
there.
I got you.
So you are adjacent to the property line?
Yes. And I just feel like it's going to take away from my son's health, where he couldn't get outside and enjoy life. And that's not fair to him.
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
And that's what I got to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Next, I have Mr. Matt Fuller of 12172 128th Street, Live Oak. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. First thing I want to share is why we moved here. We were not born and raised here. I myself was born and raised in Hillsborough County. So in 1984, the population there was 731,907 people. That's when I was born. When we left there in 2021, 1.5 million was the population. All right. We moved here to dig our feet into God's country. We have a far superior county, in my beliefs, here, opposed to where I grew up. We have superior elected officials, representatives that I feel care for the people and their opinions. We plan to start a new generation here in Suwannee County, where elected officials have the best interest of the community at heart. So we have to focus on strategic growth and land usage, I feel, in a rural area like Suwannee County. These dirt borrows have been declined in other counties in Florida, several of them over the years. A lot of things is general compatibility. The purposed use cannot be conducted and operated in a manner that is compatible with adjacent properties. There's 18 families that live within 1,000 feet of the projected site. And there's tons of other properties nearby that'll be affected by the truckloads. There's nuisances and hazards that come with a project like this. The scale, intensity, operation of the use will generate unreasonable noise, glare, dust, smoke, odor, vibration, electrical interferences, and other nuisances or hazards for adjoining properties. Other thing I thought about that I didn't know if anybody else was going to bring up or if we've thought about as a community, but the lost tax revenue. This is an A1 zoned property. It has the ability with current zoning to house 6 families or 6 households based off of the average or the median home value in Suwannee County and the current millage rates. And that's now, not 10 years from now. That's $30,000 annual of tax revenue that goes towards, I would assume, infrastructure for us. Some rough math I just did after we just spoke that we could go to 15 feet deep or borrow 15 feet of dirt. 20 acres, only 20 acres, that's 484,000 yards of dirt. I'm not sure exactly the size, how many yards fit in let's say a full semi truckload. But remember that's 484,000 yards, and that's 20 acres. The property size is 62. So I would hope that our Zone 5 representative, our chairman, our board members would take all this into account and remember locals that grew up here, were born and raised here, why they haven't left here, and why families like ours have moved here to settle. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller.
Mr. Chairman, just one point of order issue or / question. I was reached out. Does the chair want to enforce the 3-minute mark just to make sure we can get through all this?
How many more we got? I said 19, and we've done however many for, so we still have at least 15 to go. So if y'all can, if you wouldn't mind, speak quickly and promptly, and let's try to get it through 3 minutes, or we're going to be here for, if everyone takes 10 minutes to speak, we're going to be here all night long. I've heard many of you speak, and no disrespect, like I'm not trying to cut you short, but a lot of folks have said the same thing, environmental, road traffic, dust, I hear you. And everyone will get a chance to speak, every single one of you. But if you could, just try to keep it to 3 minutes if possible.
Is it all right if the clerk runs it, but it'll be up to the board?
Yeah, that's fine. And when you hear
Okay.
when you hear the dinger go off, if you could, just try to wrap it up. Next up, I'm gonna call two of you up, just so we can save time too and get in line. First one is Mr. Bill Peterson of 3985 204th Place, Lake City, and following Mr. Peterson will be Mr. William A. Carrier Jr. of 21031 County Road 137. Welcome, Mr. Peterson. Is that right?
You got it right.
Okay.
Peterson.
Peterson.
You did good.
Welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. First time in my life I've ever done this kind of thing. A little nervous. My wife and I have been out there for where we live about a half a mile from the site, and we've been out there for about 25 years, and we've seen it grown over the years. There's a lot of people out there, and I think that the number of people that are here tonight is just a really good indication that you're moving into a neighborhood of people, that are living their normal lives as much as is possible out in the country. And so I think there are many other country areas within Suwannee County, if not Columbia County, that a site like this could be built. Because there's a lot of country. I think it's too populated, densely populated where it is. Like I said, I've been on that road, like the lady mentioned, where Market Road and 137 meets. Very dangerous road. There's school buses on that road. I know I'm repeating what's already been said, but we're talking about human life, concerning accidents. I guess that's about all I have to say. I don't think it's a good idea.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Peterson. After Mr. Your Carrier, right? Yes, sir. After Mr. Carrier will be Lisa Jo Smith of 347 Southwest, looks like Clint Way of Lake City, Florida. So, Ms. Smith, if you'll make your way behind Mr. Carrier.
She's my son's nurse.
Okay, well, y'all rotate then. Go ahead, Mr. Carrier.
Yes, sir. I'm William Carrier. I live at 21031 County Road 137. The back of our house is approximately 50 to 75 feet away from the property line of this borrow pit land. I'm not quite sure what all it is. I have letters from UFL physicians, all of his nurses through UFL, that states that this is bad and detrimental to his health. He wasn't expected to live past 2. Me and Mom have been fighting. He's 5 years old now. He's going on 6. I want to keep going strong. Putting these dust and particles and everything in the air make it to where my son can't go out and enjoy the porch, enjoy the animals, or going and riding around in his yard on his wheelchair right there with all of his machines. He's also allowed to get off of those machines sometimes throughout the day, which means there's no filtration or anything, and that passageway through his neck goes straight to his lungs, just so you guys know if anybody doesn't know. So that means when he's off of that vent and we have him outside, any dust travels anywhere you go, no matter what, especially in open field, because there's no trees, no nothing from my property, well, from the back of my house to the property that this is happening. I'm just asking that we don't do it, because this could be putting him back in the hospital every 3 weeks. Every time we go in the hospital, we spend a week. Straight off rip, it's a week. I don't want that to happen. I don't want that life no more. I'm out there trying to support my family and live in a nice neighborhood. I love all my neighbors. They're great people. I don't have any problems with any of them, but this borrow pit, I don't think is a great idea, especially for my son's health, and that's the main priority.
Yes, sir.
So that's all I have.
Yes, sir. Thank you, and I will add to that. Hats off to you for raising a special needs child. There's a special place for that. Thank you, Ms. Carrier.
We have a letter from the physicians.
Yeah. Yeah, I got your email. Didn't you email it to me? Yeah, I did get it.
Well,
I got about
hold on,
35 of them. But I'll hold on.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, to the extent that if those are to be considered factually by you in making this decision or any member of the board, they need to be admitted and given to Ms. Woods
Well,
down at
since
the
he
end.
shared it with me, we'll just
That'll be fine.
err on the safe side and submit it. That's fair. I mean, since you emailed everybody, I don't think you mind sharing it, right? Okay. Pass that to the clerk. She's the clerk of the court, in case you guys didn't know. You are Miss Lisa Jo Smith.
Yes.
Behind Mrs. Lisa Jo Smith will be Mrs. Kendall Moyer of 21063 County Road 137. Go ahead, Mrs. Smith.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. I'm here to represent Abriel. I'm his nurse that takes care of him on a daily basis, and I just would like you to know the impact that this would have on him. So he has a diagnosis of spinal muscular atrophy, which is known as SMA. That affects the muscles and the nerves. So he has weakening of his muscles and nerves, and he has a tracheostomy that goes straight into his neck to breathe. A lot of times he does well, and he can come off his machine. At other times, he is ventilator dependent. Sometimes I have to suction him every 10 minutes when he's fighting for his life. This can happen if he has any kind of dust, if he gets sick, and we just feel that this is going to be really bad for him. He does have times that it's really good for him, and he does great. He's able to get off that ventilator for a few minutes a day, a couple hours or two. Today we sat on the porch. He loved it. He loves the farm animals. He's able to go out and pet the farm animals, and that is the high point of this little boy's life, because he is stuck in that bed or in that wheelchair all the time. He can vocalize, but he has a hard time, and so he really relates to being outside and the animals and things that he absolutely loves. This pit would absolutely be detrimental to his health, and just a cloud of dust would prohibit him from leaving his home, and I felt like it would just be absolutely horrible for him to leave.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Thank you. Next, Mrs. Moyer. Okay, behind Mrs. Moyer will be Mr. Clifford Addison of P.O. Box 446, Brantford. Welcome, Mrs. Moyer.
Hello. So I live at 21063 County Road 137. I'm directly across from them. I have right now 11 horses. I also take in sick and injured horses to rehab them back to great health. I don't know what this is to do for them. I have horses that are heavy, which means they have asthma. They are on daily medications. That's how they survive at this given moment. And if this happens, we're talking a lot of vet bills. I'm already exceeding sometimes $100,000 a year, and there's no way I can do more than that. Okay, so I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I come before you as a concerned citizen and neighbor, urging you to deny the special use permit for the proposed borrow pit in our agriculture and residential community. This project poses significant risk to our health, safety, and the way of life, and I ask you to consider these critical points before making your decision. One of the most alarming consequences of a borrow pit is the generation of dust and airborne particles. Many families, including children, the elderly, Okay.
She's trying to get in her 3 minutes.
Sorry. Many families, including children, the elderly, and those with respiratory conditions, will be forced to breathe in these harmful pollutants daily. In particular, we have a child in our community with spinal muscular atrophy, a condition that makes even minor respiratory issues life-threatening. Approving this permit would put this child and many others at severe risk. Is it worth jeopardizing their health for the sake of this project? Borrow pits are loud operations with heavy machinery, constant truck traffic, excavation activities will shatter the peaceful environment that families, farmers, and retirees depend on. Residents move to this area for a quiet, rural lifestyle, not to live next to an industrial site. Approving this permit would fundamentally change the character of our community. The influx of dump trucks and construction equipment will increase traffic congestion and road wear on rural roads not designed to handle such heavy loads. This creates a dangerous environment for local farmers, school buses, and families. Our roads are already fragile, and increased wear and tear will lead to costly repairs, costs that taxpayers, not the permit applicant, will have to bear. Our community depends on the land. The proposed borrow pit could disrupt local water tables, impacting irrigation and drinking water wells. Dust and sediment from excavation could contaminate crops, including yields, and harming livestock. There are risks our agricultural economy cannot afford, and once the damage is done, it's irreversible. Many borrow pits once established do not remain small operations. Expansions happen. Promises of limited impact often give way to larger, more disruptive operations. If you approve this permit, what are you setting for future industrial development in our agriculture and residential community? The decision you make today will impact generations to come. Commissioners, you were elected to protect the well-being of this community, its people, its land, and its future. A borrow pit does not align with those values. It brings hardship and disruption to families who have built their lives here. Please listen to the voices of our residents and vote no on this special use permit. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Moyer. Mr. Addison, welcome, sir. Next behind Mr. Addison will be Jesse Monroe, I think is the name. There you go. Yes, sir. Welcome, Mr. Addison.
Good evening, Madam Clerk, Commissioners, concerned citizens. I am very ill prepared to speak on this. I found out about this yesterday. Don't know about the notification process. However, myself and my family own property to the west and to the south of this proposed bar pit. And short and sweet, I certainly understand all your concerns. I don't want a bar pit next to any one of your homes, your property, and I don't want one next to mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Addison. Mr. Monroe?
How you doing?
Welcome,
Thank you.
sir. Behind you will be Mr. Jason Moyer, if you want to speak as well. I think Mrs. Moyer already spoke. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Monroe.
My name is Jesse. I'm not going to go over the same talking points that all of you fantastic people have been giving. I'm going to kind of want to spark something in you. They work for you. All of you raised your hand and took an oath of office, and you swore to the Constitution of both the United States and the state of Florida, correct?
Yes, sir.
You're elected officials, correct?
Yes, sir.
They work for you. Okay? Obviously, you represent the people, and the people are here right now in front of you telling you they do not want this. It's time to stop putting profits over people. It's time for that. To you people, the residents, I don't live close to there. I was asked to come up here, and I wanted to. Florida Statute 113.07 defines surety bonds. All elected officials are required to be bonded by a surety bond with the state of Florida. That is your insurance. If they violate the Constitution, they violate their oath of office, if they violate a statute, their bonds can be revoked. 10 of you have to get on board to have their bonds revoked. So if they do not vote in favor of the people, that violates your constitutional rights for the state of Florida and for the United States Constitution. I advise you to dig into it, because I can tell you there are some laws that will be violated by this borrow pit, such as sanitation laws. I believe it's 839 for the statute. Don't quote me on it. But based on this statute, it defines that any act that causes any adverse health effects or poses an adverse health effect, or monetary or emotional, we'll call it imbalance in people, maybe if it stresses you out, is considered a violation of the Sanitation Act and can be investigated by the Department of Health. It's not a what if, right? When it happens or when it's going to happen. The people who are doing this don't even live there. So all they're doing is reaping the benefit from it, and they're taking the material from there to Lake City. And who asked the gopher turtles if they wanted to move? Some of those gopher turtles are probably older than the people that are sitting in here and live there longer than most of us have been here. Nobody is taking into consideration the plants, the animals, the trees. They're all going to be affected by the dust. People's crops won't grow because the dust will create a barrier on the plants for photosynthesis. Water tables are going to get affected. We know this all happens. There are so many studies out there that all you got to do is look it up. There are so many places out there that are suing under mass lawsuits against these mining companies for this stuff. Look at Ferguson. 15, 20, 30 years from now, these people's water are going to be tainted. Their animals are going to get sick. They're going to get sick. Just right up the road, some good friends of mine who can't come here. One of them who's a survivor of bone cancer. He's 80 years old. His wife has COPD and neurological disorders. She couldn't make it here tonight. So it's a no-brainer. The people don't want it. You are working for the people. If they don't do what you want, Look up surety bonds. It's called bonds for the wind. All elected officials have it, even your U.S. representatives. 10 or more of you just need to file, pull their bonds, and they won't be able to work anymore.
Yes, sir. Mr. Moyer, right?
Yes.
Okay, behind Mr. Moyer will be Mr. Darrell Goss of 20819 County Road 137.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jason Moyer. I'm a longtime resident. My family's been here for the last 25 years. We own about 125 acres in Suwannee County. We try to purchase all of our properties in Suwannee County for our family. We love Suwannee County. I'm coming to you today asking you to deny this permit request. As the carrier said, they're very close to us. We actually own the property that they live on. Gabriel Carrier is a great child. We don't want him to, want him to be able to come outside, play with all our animals. My wife said that we rehab farm animals, so we have horses and cows and donkeys and all kinds of things out there. This is going to impact my property values. It's going to affect the roads. My children go to school in Branford. We do a lot of stuff with Branford FFA. My kids are very involved in the community. It's just going to create a lot of issues, right? And as the other lady was stating, this is a recharge zone. You're removing 10 foot, 14 foot of sand. When you remove 10 foot of sand, if we're over 10 inches of groundwater returning back to the aquifer, sand is a filtration system back to the aquifer. We've already had issues with our well water on these properties in the past. There is a sinkhole on the property that is full of trash, metal tires, rotting garbage, and the Department of Environmental Protection is already investigating this, but they have to notify the property owners at this time. There's already issues going on, and on the permit application, it states that there's no residents on the south side of this property. Well, I own a couple of properties on the south side of this property, and they adjoin up to the fence line. There's numerous residents that can't come here tonight, so I'm begging you to please, deny this permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moyer. Thank you. Mr. Goss, right?
Yes.
All right, behind Mr. Goss will be Richard Orlaccio of 20488 County Road 137. Welcome, Mr. Goss.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commission, for having us and hearing us. Darrell Goss, 20811 County Road 137. I'm not living there yet. My house is under construction. I hope to move in a couple months. My back door will be 200 foot from the excavation to the west. 200 or 300 foot to the south will be the haul road. I'm opposed to this bar pit, diminish property values, create a lot of dust on the ingress and egress road, and frankly just be unsightly. I have a civil engineering construction background. I've built roads for 25 years. I've managed $50 million projects. I've worked in countless bar pits. I am acutely aware of the amount of dust that a 17-yard loaded dump truck will kick up in summer. And I've seen water trucks run, unless they run 2 or 3 times every day, doesn't put a dent in it. It just doesn't. And by the way, if they excavate 60 square acres, 10 foot deep, that's about 1 million cubic yards. A 17-yard dump truck, you're looking at 60,000 loads of material coming off this property. That's a lot. And Market Road, by the way, I know it was resurfaced not too long ago. It's already failing. You have longitudinal cracking all the way down from 137 to Branford Highway and 137 down the other way. I know that the zoning hearing, they said they were going to take the 137 route to avoid the line of sight issue at Market Road, Branford Highway, but you have the same line of sight issue at 137 at Branford Highway. It's just on a different skew. So that will be an expense. Protect yourselves here. If you do approve this permit, there should be a maintenance agreement in here with these people to maintain the road, repair the road, protect us, protect the taxpayers. I don't want it in the first place, but if you choose to ignore the overwhelming opposition from this community, at least give us some protections. Also, during the zoning public hearing, Mr. Price implied that there was something kind of unique about this property. This material is not found everywhere. And I shared with everyone here some official geology map of the state of Florida. Most of Suwannee County and southern Columbia County
This A3 silica sand material is everywhere. Now, it's of course at varying depths, and I get that. I know if you're going down to Beachville, you're lime rock about 12 inches deep. But I bring that up to make the point that this is not a unique property. There are several properties for sale throughout Suwannee County that very likely have similar geological features. However, they are not surrounded by 18 homes within 1,000 foot of this property. Just to bring that up, it shouldn't be an issue if the property costs similar. The only issue, I think, is that it's the haul road, the haul distance to Lake City. So that's pretty much what I have to say. Like I said, should you choose to ignore the overwhelming opposition here, and I know it's been brought up, but vegetative buffers need to be established before this proceeds. Ingress, egress roads need to be out of an impervious material, doesn't kick up dust, and or water trucks at a rigorous set schedule as part of the permit. Strict hours of operations, maintenance agreement between the permit holder and Suwannee County for the maintenance and repair of County Road 137 and Market Road. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goss. Mr. Alaccio? Orlacchio. Okay, behind him will be Mr. John Van Fleet.
Some of these topics that are in my presentation have been touched on, but to make it simple and easy for me to keep from picking it apart, I like to read it in its entirety. It'll make a lot more sense. This is in reference to the borrow pit we've all been talking about. And the title of my message is Increased Risk for Vehicle Crashes as They Relate to the Pending Permit. I'll attempt to paint a word picture as to the section of roadway that's used by the very heavy, fully loaded dump trucks from 20636 County Road 137, which is next door to my home. Traveling north for 2 miles is a flat, straight roadway, a posted speed limit of 55 miles an hour, which is often exceeded, and south from this point 1 mile to the intersection of Market Road. The roadway is frequently used by emergency vehicles at a very, very great speed as well. The roadway is very heavily traveled from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 4 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. These hours coincide with the pit hours of 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. There's 7 school bus stops that are located within this area as well. The school bus was rear ended 21 days ago on County Road 137 and 208 Pass at 7:30 a.m., which is only 150 feet south of what is termed Hall Road, which I'm sure you've all heard of so far. I'm going to analyze this based upon the 3 areas that I'm picking on. One is site number 1. This is the entrance of County Road 137, where slow, fully loaded, heavy dump trucks will be exiting and will present the greatest risk of a T-bone or rear-end crash. Sign number 2 is at the intersection of County Road 137 and Market Road, where there's a blind hill for eastbound Market Road traffic. The only sign to alert the eastbound Market Road traffic is a small blue Suwannee County sign. Again, this is a very dangerous and poorly marked intersection. Site 3 is at Market Road and Brantford Highway. At this location, there's a flashing caution light, and the sight distance, again, is also limited because it's a offset intersection. All these locations enhance the risk of a T-bone crash. As per Bubba's site prep, at the site zoning meeting, residents were told there would only be 15 to 25 loads taken off the property per day. I'll use 20 for my calculations for the only southbound County Road 137 eastbound Market Road to demonstrate the amount of total potential crash sites. My math is 3 sites times 20 loads equals 60 possibilities and 7 school buses. That also means it's 67 per day, or 335 a week, or 1,340 a month. If you include the empty dump trucks coming in, these numbers would double. This is far too many crash sites to ignore. I'm a retired paramedic with 30 years experience, and I witnessed the aftermath of all types of crashes with critical injuries and sometimes fatalities. During the last county commissioners meeting, I was asked how you arrive at decisions if the takeaway was the greatest good for the greatest number of residents. In closing, I'd like to read a statement that comes off of this permit. Page number 5, permit point number 2. Findings. Before any special permit shall be granted, the Board of County Commissioners shall make a specific finding that is empowered under these land development regulations to grant the special permit described in the application, and that the granting of this special permit would promote the public health, safety, morals, order, comfort, convenience, appearance, prosperity, or general welfare before any special permit shall be granted. The Board of County Commissioners shall further make a determination that the specific rules governing individual special permits, if any, have been met by the applicant, and further satisfactory provisions and arrangements have been made concerning the following matters. Where applicable, I respectfully ask that you deny the permit for this borrow pit.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Van Fleet. Behind Mr. Van Fleet will be Mr. James F. Ponder of 4572 196 Place, Welborn. Mr. Ponder. Go ahead, Mr. Van Fleet.
Good afternoon. I have a few printouts. Could I hand them out?
Yes, sure. As long as you're okay with them being part of the record.
Sir.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may
Mr. Ponder. Mr. Ponder, wait 1 second. Mr. Van Fleet's ahead of you.
Pardon me. Excuse me, sir. All right, good afternoon, we the people and our fine commissioners. I'm here today to urge you guys to vote no on the special permit, just like the rest of our neighbors. As my wife said, we have 1,200 feet right alongside of the borrow pit. Our house is only 200 feet off the property line, and our majority of our outdoor activities are between there and that. So every time we have visitors, do cookouts, things like that, that's right where we're at. So we'll be looking right through those bushes. I don't care how many plants you plant. We'll be hearing the banging, we'll be seeing the dust, we'll be hearing all the noises. So it will not be great for us. If it does go through, I would not want to live there. So that's how I feel about the whole proposition. So I've been a respiratory therapist for 35 years, worked for the Veterans Hospital for 33 years. So I'm very familiar with respiratory illnesses. So I've worked in the emergency room, worked in critical care. I've done home health. I've done everything as far as helping people to breathe. I've done a lot of breathing tests, thousands of breathing tests. So I've seen the effects of the environment on people's breathing and their lung functions and their cardiac functions. So I've done a lot of studies now. I don't know if you have all heard the dust exposure for the young men and women in the deserts in Iraq and Afghanistan. So we're doing a lot of testing on that. We can see all the physical damage. So I have a lot of the article I just gave you, lots of other articles, that dust is downplayed a lot. So unfortunately, dust is a serious health issue, but it's just dust. Well, dust, when you breathe it, every time you have, just out of the blue, where your eyes water, it's probably dust. Every time your nose gets itchy or stuffy, it's probably dust. Every time you have a little sore throat, it's probably dust. So dust contains not only inorganic, but it contains organic compounds. Okay, so it can contain viruses, bacteria, all these things live in the soil. Okay, all your mold. What 60 acres of exposed land will do is cause a ton of dust. Okay, all different size particles is right on here on your article. I got article after article after article that says the same thing. Okay, so driving in and out is a problem. Sitting there not doing anything is a problem. Okay, there's large size particles and small size particles. They can travel 100 feet, they can travel 1,000 feet, they can travel miles. So I'm sure you guys have heard the dust that comes from the Sahara, right? So it can travel everywhere. So it's going to be a significant thing. And the other thing I have is the noise pollution. Noise pollution affects your systemic operations. It can cause all kinds of heart disease and all different kind of things. And that's just from the vibrations and the continuous noise. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Van Fleet.
Thank you.
If I could first ask you all to look at this photo, if you could pass that down. That is the reason why we're only at standing room only right now. The sign on 137 was knocked down. My wife took that photo early this morning, and that's why a lot of people do not know that this meeting is happening right now or about what. First off, I want to congratulate the people that went ahead of me. I'm at a distinct advantage because so many people made my point about the impact of this, the homework you all did. Good job. But I want to address one more vertical point about this, and that is the borrow pit. Once it is dug, assuming the waiver for the permit that it gets done, Florida's aquifer, and we are blessed to live right on top of some great water. Florida's aquifer is only recharged in two ways. We don't have any mountains with any snow runoff in the spring to recharge it. It's from other aquifers or rivers and rainwater. That pit is going to allow percolation of whatever goes into the pit into our groundwater, and that's going to be a distinct problem. Also, just the research that I did, the creation of borrow pits in areas where people primarily get their water from pumping it, it disrupts the altitude of the water. It disrupts the depth at which one has to go for drilling. Many of our drills, many of our wells may need to be re-drilled. And this is a real problem right there. I am concerned about the environmental impacts, which have been certainly mentioned before, so far as having the waiver for this and the creation of the borrow pit. But there's one other thing, domino theory. One pit, one waiver will lead to another waiver. Oh, we can add one more. That last one didn't do that much damage. And there will be an effect of additional waivers and additional actions like this in our county and on our groundwater. And that is my main objection. So I respectfully ask for a denial for this, for those of us that live in Suwannee County.
Thank you, Mr. Ponder. It looks like I got Wendy and Ann Marion Ellicott.
Marion, yeah.
Marion, I'm sorry.
I'll speak for Marion.
Okay. I'm sorry.
All right.
Of 20816 County Road 137.
Correct.
Thank you.
So first of all, ditto what everybody else said. I'm not going to try not to repeat all of that, but and I know that sand pits are needed for construction and roads and development of land, but this is not the place for it. This is, I know it's small, but if you want, you can pass it around. And I just printed this off the property appraiser, the GIS map. If you could see how many properties there are around this sand pit. This is not a sparsely populated area. There are 100 residences within half a mile, and there are 50 residences within a quarter of a mile of this property. This is not the best area for it. This is actually one of the more heavily populated areas of Suwannee County. I live directly across the street from this property. I live directly across the street from the driveway, as does my mother-in-law, Marion Ellicott. And there's another resident, I don't believe she's here, Sue Hudson and Robert Hudson. We all have our own residences directly across the street. Can you imagine, 20 trucks coming and going every day. That's 40 times there will be a truck taking off and stopping right in front of our houses. That's a lot of noise. And every time a truck comes out, it blows dust with it as it comes. Marion just built a deck out in the front. She's right in front of that driveway. She's not even gonna be able to sit in it. She's not gonna be able to have her windows open during the summer. It's not gonna be possible. The dust will choke her out. All of us. We're directly across the street. We're the only ones that are directly on the other side of 137. And those trucks coming and going 40 times a day, that's a lot of noise that we're gonna have to deal with. And actually, every one of us are home all day long. So we don't leave, we won't be out of the house from 9 to 5, This will be impacting. I work from home. I'll be hearing this every 10 minutes, there'll be a truck pulling in and out directly across the street from my house. So I really hope deny this permit. I mean, like I said, I know this is something that's needed, but not here. This isn't the place for it. There are other places in the county that are better. I mean, just driving up here from our house, it was like, I'm like, when are we going to get to civilization again? There was just open space, open space, open space from my house all the way here. And our neighborhood does not look like this. Our neighborhood, there's a lot of neighbors. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Ellicott. 3 more. Ms. Christine Orlacchio. And then behind her is going to be Ms. Patricia Bird. Yes, ma'am.
I got you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to speak about sinkholes and how they relate to excavation. This is in relation to the borrow pit. Special permit SP 25-01-01 coming later. And if you are not aware, there is a sinkhole on this property, which is a concern for the neighbors nearby. I've provided pictures for you all. Tires contain harmful chemicals that can leach into soil and water if not disposed of properly. This can lead to the spread of Zika virus, which can be spread by mosquitoes. Benzene, styrene, formaldehyde, lead compounds, chlorinated paraffins are just some of the chemicals. Sinkholes can range in width of a few feet to hundreds of feet across, and a few inches to hundreds of feet deep. Sinkholes can contribute to contaminated drinking water, as well as diverting surface water. The largest sinkhole in the world is in China, with a depth of 2,172 feet and the volume of 170 million cubic yards. I-80 has been closed recently to a sinkhole in New Jersey from an old mine that wasn't filled in. Just recently, a sinkhole in Seffner that was repaired has reopened, and this could happen here as well. The largest sinkhole in Florida, according to Orange County Regional History Center, is an hourglass-shaped hole, which is 150 feet around and estimated to be 500 feet deep. Not all homeowners' policies provide coverage for damage to your home resulting from sinkholes, but Title 37 of the Florida statute 627.706 requires insurance companies to cover catastrophic ground cover collapse, which increases our homeowners' policies. And who is responsible for the sinkhole? The property owner. I believe that when you do a lot of excavation disturbance, such as this borrow pit, this can increase the risk of another sinkhole. I request that you deny this permit, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Bird? Yep, behind Ms. Bird will be Ms. Crawford, Ms. Diane Crawford.
I'm going to talk about this, but these are the posted signs.
Gotcha.
And just to show that they're, they look identical, but they're 2 different signs.
She can keep these?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Logan, did you get a copy of the picture from before?
We'll pass them back now.
Welcome, Ms. Bird.
Thank you. There's a lot I don't need to say because it's already been said, and I'm not going to repeat it. But the first thing I would like to address are the signs that I just gave you photos of. I don't know who's responsible for placing them, but placing them 18 feet, and I've measured, off the road and down the driveway of the property seems improper. The posted speed limit on County Road 137 is 55 miles an hour. To the vehicles traveling south on 137, you could see the signs if you went down the driveway and looked. Vehicles driving northbound would never see the signs, would not know about this meeting or the prior meeting. And the only reason some of us knew about the first meeting was one neighbor did see the first sign and notified as many of us as he could. The signs look identical. They placed the second sign on February 9th on a Sunday afternoon in the same place as the first one. So basically, if you didn't know to look, you'd think it was the sign for the first meeting. According to the Suwannee County website, I've heard different views on this, but I did see it on your website. Zoning special permits, instructions for applicants filing zoning special permit applications. Fourth paragraph states, in addition, the Planning and Zoning Office will send letters to all landowners who own property in close proximity to the subject property. Nobody received letters. My property line and the subject property line meet at their north boundary. I can see it from my backyard. My late husband and I built our home 16 years ago at this location for the peace and quiet of country living. I don't want to spend the rest of my life 5 to 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, listening to trucks. From what they're saying, if they're going to do each section 20 acres at a time for 10 years, that's 30 years. I'm not going to live that long. I believe the trucks entering and leaving the property will create major backups, possible accidents. Again, the speed limit's 55. And that's about it. I want to thank you for your time, and I hope that you do oppose this because we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bird. Ms. Crawford, right?
Yes.
All right,
yes,
thank you,
sir.
Ms. Crawford. Welcome.
So everything that everybody has already said, I agree 1,000% with. The only thing that I want to bring up is the noise pollution. So recently, my husband was diagnosed with dementia. And it is a proven fact that loud noises will cause aggravation, anxiety, confusion. My husband's days are spent on our back porch. My property butts up to the north side of the location. And he sits there, he watches the cows on 800 acres behind my house, the deer, the turkey. The noise from these trucks is just going to be a big issue for my husband. Along with everything else that everybody has already said, I hope that you guys deny this and it does not go through. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Crawford. That's all the comment cards I have, but is there anyone else from, Ms. Martin, I got yours. I'm gonna talk to you after the meeting because we already passed public comments and to keep our agenda flowing. Well, it says in regards to 216th Street.
Because that's part of where some of the semis going to be going, correct?
Okay, well, come on up real quick.
Ma'am, were you sworn in?
Were you sworn in? I thought you got here late. He's going to swear you in real quick.
I wasn't planning on commenting until no one's
Go
brought
ahead.
it up.
Do you swear affirm testimony you give in this cause to be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name and address for the record.
My name is Wendy Martin. I live at 15850 141st Road. I have non-homestead property located at 22862 43rd Drive. I have a son that lives on 43rd Drive and another son that lives on 41st Drive. For purposes of Smith Market Road, where some of these semis are going to be having to traverse, there are no shoulders on any, and including 137 also. There's no shoulders on the sides of the road. There are sections, especially when you get up to where the little interchange on 137 to Smith Market for 216th Street and back to 137, where you got to worry about slapping mirrors. If two people with F-250s are going opposite directions, both of them have to go to the right side of the road so they don't slap mirrors with each other. And my concern is on this road width, that whole section between County Road 49 all the way over to the Branford Highway, it's not wide enough. It's barely wide enough when there's a school bus on the road and regular cars on the road. So if we're talking heavy-duty trucks for purpose of moving dirt, that's going to be a major repaving project for that whole, that whole section to make it wide enough and sturdy enough to accommodate these semis and these earth movers are going to be bringing in. That's what I wanted to bring up.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your comment. And I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought I got your comment card late, and it said something about no shoulders on the road.
Yeah,
so
it had
my
to do-
apologies.
No one was, it's like, I haven't heard anyone bring it up on this. I didn't know they were doing a hearing tonight.
Yes, ma'am. No,
So-
my apologies.
My apologies for the last minute.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for coming.
Any questions?
No, ma'am. I'm good. Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am. State your name and address for the record, please, ma'am.
Were you sworn in?
Were you sworn in?
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Christina Casciati, 21404 County Road 137. I'm on the corner of Market Road and 137.
For the court reporter's benefit, how do you spell that last name?
Cacchiotti. We've addressed the issue about the stop sign there on the corner of 137 and Market Road. There's been 4 people just in the last couple of weeks that have ended up on the other side of the road because I don't know if they've stopped or didn't stop or if there was somebody coming over the hill. But then there's also the issue at Market Road and 247? It's a caution light. It's hard to just pull out with a normal vehicle. And then my other comment is, looking up on the website, it says for a borrowing pit that the material for a project should only be distributed within 2 miles. So where is this material going? And then my other issue is, what about who's going to be monitoring the weight limit on the trucks? Is there going to be a set of scales that these trucks have to go over? Is DOT going to be involved? I do know a little bit about it because unfortunately my husband, who passed away in July, he did operate a dump truck. So I know the hazards
Yes, ma'am.
of one.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your comment. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Now's your chance. All right, I'm going to close public comment. Board discussion. Board members, comments, questions?
Chairman,
Yes, sir. Commissioner Mobley.
to protect the residents around here, around that area, is this something that may possibly need to be tabled so where you could implement the language in the special conditions for the project, or whether it gets approved or not approved, something that come back with, or do you have to do that, or do you, how do you implement it into it now, or?
Well, you don't mean, unless you needed time to evaluate what those conditions would be. If the board has specific conditions that they would want as part of an approval, then you would make those on the record. Those would be added to the adopted resolution as an attachment. And the resolution, when you have it written for approval, it says, subject to the conditions seen as attachment 1. If we don't have an attachment, we don't have any conditions, but if there's an attachment 1, then it would be, the conditions would be listed. Wording behind such, we would notate down, we would coordinate with the county attorney and what that needs to look like before it's part of the actual adopted resolution. If you have those listed, if there's something that you need additional information on, of course, you have the ability to table it for a specific reason.
I guess my comment would be, Commissioner Mobley, that all these folks have made an effort to come out here tonight to hear what we're going to do. If you have some limitations or something that you want to maybe ask Mr. Price or whoever the applicant may be, if that's something that they could adhere to, then I'd say we probably need to discuss those tonight and either hammer this out for a yes with some conditions or a no, since all these folks are here. However, if it's something that we or any other commissioner up here needs more time to study, or staff, then I would say yes, let's table it and bring it back. But if you got some conditions that are in mind, then I would say, on behalf of these folks that made an effort to come here, let's talk about them tonight while they're here. That's just my 2 cents.
The other issue would be there was a lot of stuff said, and of course this board's supposed to make their decision based off of factual, evidence as presented. So I don't know if there's anything that's been addressed that this board wants the applicant to answer or follow up to or need any clarification on. Because there was a wide range of topics that was brought up as questions and comment.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, Commissioner White.
I would like to hear from Mr. Price or whoever's operating or going to, or is going to be running that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I keep hearing people say it's going to be 30 years for you to get the dirt off of this pit. Is that a true estimate, or?
I'm not managing it, so I won't be operating it.
How you doing? Haven't been sworn in either.
Okay, can you raise your right hand? Do you swear firm testimony you give me the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
What's your name?
Braxton Norton.
And go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Commissioner White, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just asking, is that a true statement? 30 years, or give me a time frame of what you're thinking. I know nobody has a crystal ball. I get it.
Yeah, sure.
But just give me an idea.
I mean, based on our pits in the previous past, yes, it's probably gonna be 30 years. But who's to say? I mean, we don't blow through it quickly to get out of everybody's hair. If that would be the appropriate answer, I don't know how to really answer that question factually.
Hey, guys, listen. When he was respectful, so I heard the comments. Let's just let the man speak. Be respectful of his comments. We're all human here, so.
As far as if any buffers or paving the driveway out or whatever the case may be, are y'all acceptable to those terms?
1,000%, yes, sir.
Are you acceptable terms for a water truck in dry times?
Yes, sir.
I'm just trying to, there was a lot of comments put out there, so I'm just trying to weed through them in my mind, but.
If I can, Mr. Chairman, jump in with
Commissioner Hale.
Commissioner White saying there, and I agree with the buffer. This is something we've done in the past, but we try to work with the Ag Extension Office here in town to find the proper, can you guys hear me? Okay. Is this one working? Hello? Got me?
Yeah, you just got to get close.
We try to work with the Ag Extension Office to try to find the proper vegetation that would be best suited for a dust condition, if you will, something that would live, something it may require water, maybe a well put in so you can keep it growing and it don't die back, things of that nature. Would you be willing to take advice from them and what type of vegetation would work well to not only capture that dust, but to keep it where these folks don't have to look at it? And I say this about solar fields, folks. I want you guys to know I've done this in the past. I don't want you to know there's a solar field next to you unless you want to know there's one there. So we've always asked those companies to do their best to buffer that so the neighbors don't have to look at a mirror every day, if you will. And I would ask the same thing. I don't want them to know there's a pit there unless they want to know there's a pit there.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
So, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, yes, sir. Commissioner Perkins.
I know this is something I know as being a contractor myself. I use field dirt, and I know it's needful. And on the road, I think some have already mentioned it. The advantage of using the field dirt would need it, but they don't want it in their backyards. And some concerns I have is that, as Mr. Goff had put out there and said about the those things he brought up, well, also Commissioner White had mentioned the water trucks and other things, but those items that he mentioned, would that be something that you all could work to come with a happy medium between you all and them, can be able to get this worked out, and if the citizens will be satisfied with that? And also another thing is that is with the gopher tortoises, if they're on the property, as I heard someone mention about that, what your plans are to move those? And I know that if they are there, they are protected.
Yes, you're correct. That would be a Mr. Dennis Price question.
All right. Water Management District permit is pretty much what is more, extensive than, your permit. And they require us to do a gopher tortoise survey. And initially, I've had, in the past, I've been permitted to dig them up and move them. And I've given that up. And when I went out there, I wasn't expecting to see very many, and it was pretty astounding. They're about as thick as I've ever seen. And what we're allowed to do on that first 20 acres, and we paid to have that survey done, and we've got a cost estimate for moving the 18, probably, there's 18 to 20 burrows. I'd have to go back and count, but on that 20 acres. And the state says there's probably 60% of them are going to be occupied, and they use that calculation. But regardless, every one of those burrows has to be dug up. And there's room on the rest of the property to put them. And we would have to, put sediment screen up to keep them in place and dig a burrow for them, and they would have to, be there. And the truth of the matter is, the reason there's so many gopher burrows on that property is because they moved in from other properties through development, the pine trees to the west, when they disturbed that. But this site was a pine tree plantation, so it was pretty stable for 18 or 20 years. So that's the reason there's so many on there. They just found a nice, safe place for the past 20 years, and everybody else, they don't realize that, but that's, they moved, and they like that type of land. But it's a pine plantation, and sooner or later they would have got disturbed anyway, because there's no law saying you can't go back over it and replant pine trees, because that's a simple act, and they will either move on or they will dig themselves back out of the excavation or from the. Anyway, I'm going on and on about that, but the bottom line is we're required to do something about it, and those plans are already in place.
Thank you. Commissioner Mobley. I see on here on the well, y'all going to have a well there if y'all going to be watering the roads. Would you have a problem with maybe implementing maybe like a routine thing with the health department on testing the well? I heard some of them talking about the water. If y'all could,
yes,
you're going to have a
sure.
well there anyway. Most
Yes,
businesses anyhow have to do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sure. We would absolutely be open to that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Perkins.
Many of them have spoken about the young child there that's suffering from breathing, and the therapist has spoke as well. Other than putting the water truck and keep that dust down, is the other means that you all can assure them that you're not going to have a problem with the dust? I know you're going to put a buffer in there. And I was thinking of this is that when you start to excavate, are you planning to excavate in the middle of your property? Where are you planning to start excavating from?
So the excavation will be kind of in the far right quadrant of the property, in that area.
How's the housing around that area?
That is kind of where the houses are located at, but we're going to start on the center and work our way out. So.
Okay. Commissioner White, you done? You good, Commissioner Perkins? Commissioner White.
I've heard a lot of them saying comments about all the dirt's going to Lake City. Is that the case?
No, sir. That was misconstrued from our planning and zoning meeting. I said that a lot of the comments were concerned about us going north on 137. Everybody knows that road, Suwannee, is not a fun road to drive in any vehicle. So I was implementing that the dirt would be for 47 south in Lake City. So that includes, southern Suwannee counties, all that area too.
Yes, sir.
One other question now.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Perkins.
The school buses, the traffic, and those kids getting off the school bus stopping. How are you going to maneuver with those school buses with the traffic and ensure the residents, they don't get hampered from trucks coming in and out of there and causing delay with them getting back and forth to work and those type of things?
I really don't have an answer to that. We're set with all the same road rules every other vehicle on the road is.
When you're bringing a lot of trucks going in and out, and it's kind of bringing it into their homes when they've been used to just them pulling out and going. They're used to the normal traffic around, and now they're having to deal with the trucks.
Ms. Martin, hold on a second. If you want to speak, come up here to the mic and wait to be recognized, please, ma'am. If not, like I say, we're going to have a disorderly meeting here, and let's try to keep it organized.
I'm not sure I understood the questions, Mr. Perkins.
So with the school buses and and the traffic that you may create in those, they're not having to deal with more traffic now with your trucks coming in and the school buses being able to have have access to the road with your trucks is on the road?
Still, I mean, where's the question in that, Mr. Perkins?
How you plan to maneuver between for the citizens being able to access the roads and your trucks and the school buses as well? How can you assure that they're not going to be hampering them from getting back and forth to wherever they may be wanting to go?
Well, of course, the gate access to the property will be far enough inset to the property that we're not going to be impeding on the road trying to get into the gate. And on top of that, of course, traffic on the road would have right of way. So we have to wait for all that to clear out before we pull out on the roads.
So you only have one way in, one way out?
Yes, you're correct. It'll be 2 lane, but yes, one way in, one way out.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. Any other questions for Mr. Norton?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Morrison?
before he sits down, I just want to make sure, and this isn't tipping any hats, I just want to make sure I'm writing these down correctly, because these would be what's implemented into conditions, if any. Was it, when we were talking about the buffer, was it with the approval of IFAS, or which agency was it?
He was I think Commissioner Mobley's the Suwannee County Extension agent who works through IFAS, as a part of IFAS, about the plant recommendations.
So it would be subject to the approval of the county extension agent. I'm just trying to make sure that I get this language correct. And then it would be complete paving from the roadway all the way through the fill site?
No.
No, it was about.
How far is it to that gate?
150 foot to the gate, and then it's about 300 foot I've measured from there back to where the millings ended.
So I'm okay with paving all the way up past the house that's there, which, in our complete defense, we didn't even know the house was habited, to be honest with you. So I hate to see that.
I rode in there today and seen the car in there, so.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so past the houses for purposes of the conditions.
Yeah.
And then water trucks, is there any type of rules or regulations other than them having them?
They're gonna put the trees.
The buffer, the 5
No, I'm
rows
just-
of trees around the
But for purposes
buffer.
of using the water trucks, because you can say they got to have them, but that doesn't mean they got to use them. So
I would just say we'll use our better judgment when dust starts, impeding on everybody else around there, then it's time to, do some watering, or if we get enough complaints from neighbors, say, hey, we need to do something different.
So as needed, just
Yes,
for
as
purposes
needed.
of this? And then you don't have any objection to, because we can't bind the health department, but if the health department will test the well, you're okay with them doing that?
Yes, sir.
All right, and the gopher tortoises, basically, we don't need to worry about that. Water management's got that covered. Am I hearing that correctly? Okay.
What was your size of a buffer?
50.
How many feet?
A 50 feet vegetative buffer.
Would that be surrounding the entire parcel?
Yes, sir.
It was a specific, it talks about vegetative buffer, but Mr. Mobley had mentioned a certain
Pine
number
trees
of rows.
Yeah.
5 rows of pine trees.
So you have that, but then Mr. Hale had mentioned working with the extension office and trying to coordinate some type of buffer plan, so I don't know.
What would be the board's pleasure, assuming that's going to be a condition? Would be 5 rows of pine trees, or subject to the approval of the county extension officer?
Well, can I?
Yes, sir, Commissioner White.
My opinion, you'd plant the pine trees because they're going to grow quicker. Your buffer's going to get there quicker, and that's where they grow. That's what was there before. It's just easy to maintain. It's a good buffer, and that's just my opinion on it, as far as the buffer goes.
Could y'all do a little bit more in the front? On that front part there, before, it's gonna be 50 more than 50 feet till you get to that gate.
Oh, yes,
Might
sir.
bring that front part maybe to the gate or something, or
Yes,
that
sir.
area.
Well, I don't think the property actually starts until we get to the gate, the
Okay.
far gate
Okay.
behind the mobile home.
All right.
And if I can ask one other question, just to make sure this is clear, would we condition the beginning of mining operation to not be able to, or of, I guess, film removal operations, unless and until that buffer is established and certified? Just to make sure we're clear.
We're okay with that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Hill.
No disrespect to Mr. White, I forgot you were kind of in that business too, as far as trees and all. And I'm just asking, so I'll ask you, because you are the specialist here. And I get the pine trees will grow faster and provide that quicker. Is there anything else that you would suggest, though, as far as vegetation? And still, we can still work through IFAS, but I mean, I forgot that is what you do. And, you know, Commissioner Mobley mentioned the cedar.
I don't like red cedars. They get disease. They die. I mean, if I was going to do anything, I'd plant the pine trees, allow them to grow. They're going to be bushy for a while, probably 6, 7, 8 years. And at that point, you may have to come in between with some grasses or something and plant in between them just to shore up the buffer.
So the way I would word that then, based upon that feedback, Commissioner White, would be to build and maintain an appropriate buffer.
Correct.
Okay.
Again, I ain't beating a dead horse. I'm just asking about any kind of, as they get taller, I guess I'm asking.
Well, that's why I said you might need to go back and plant some muley grass or something that gets 4 or 5 feet tall. It's native, doesn't require a lot of water, easy to take care of.
Gotcha.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I think I had one more. Dang, what was I going to ask him? I just lost it. I'll come back to it.
So, Ms. Martin, are you wanting to speak? And Mr. Van Fleet, if you want to make a comment, make your way to the podium,
You said
please.
something about all this is for like projects that are around State Road 47? That's all in Columbia County. None of it is here.
I don't think that's what he said.
That's not what he said.
I'm sorry. I meant 47 and 75 this way. Kind of interchange, interjunction.
Okay, so you're talking of that way.
47 and 75, this southwest quadrant, Columbia County, southeast Suwannee County. South Lake City.
All right. Hey, Ms. Martin.
47. State Road 47 is like, most of that is like all Columbia County.
I know what my question was now.
You got your question.
75 is only a small section of it that comes in.
Yeah, we're a boundary.
Hey, we can't have sidebars. Go ahead, Commissioner White.
Mr. Norton, have you explored any other sites? Have you looked for any other sites?
Yes, sir, every day, and they're not many for sale.
Well, I understand because I'm looking for ones too, so I get it. And that's why I asked you that question, is how many sites have you looked at and how long have you been looking for it?
We've been looking for a dirt pit for 2 years, Everett, probably about 2 years, and this is the first one that's kind of reasonably priced. It's in the neighborhood of where everybody, where our customers are kind of centrally located, and anything comparable is, $1 million, $1.5 million plus.
And just for the public's information, where is most of the fill dirt and lime rock? Where do you get it? Where's most of it at? Where do you dig it? I mean, in our county, where is it at?
Right now we have a pit up on 137 north of I-10, and we utilize Cushman's pit in Fort White quite a bit, and we have our own pit there in Columbia City that we dig out of.
And so this pit is not for a specific job, it's just for day-to-day operations,
yes,
homes, driveways,
yes,
that sort of thing.
The dirt man.
Yeah. And explain to the people, when you dig that dirt, when do you decide to stop? When you hit clay or
yes,
lime rock? That's what's
definitely
going
no lime rock, definitely hit clay.
So I'm just trying to give them a picture of what it is. And the reason I say this is because I do this too, so I understand, and that's why I'm asking him the questions, is so maybe you understand as well. But I've been looking for dirt too, and it's not as prevalent as you would think. Yes, there's other places. There's probably 600 acres Mr. Raymond Land owns right behind that, but he ain't gonna sell it to you. That's the problem you got. And so if we want to continue to build homes, have stores, fix our driveways, roads, we got to have dirt. And if it ain't there, where do we get it? That's my question.
Hey,
understood.
Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Norton?
Not at the moment, I don't know.
Hey, guys, listen, I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but we're not going to do this all night. We had public comment, that's closed. I know you still have concerns. We've heard them. Does anybody else have any other questions? Because if we sit here, this is just going to go around and around. So none of you guys, I'm not going to let any of y'all speak. We already done public comment. Now this is where the section of a public hearing where we're in the board discussion. So this is for the board to talk to Mr. Norton. We've heard all of y'all's concerns, issues, whatnot. Any other board members have any questions for Mr. Norton or Mr. Price or Mr. Meeks?
I may have one for Mr. Meeks here. Just a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what I would say to this, y'all, is, look, there's not a person in this room that at some point or another hadn't needed field dirt. And I don't care who you are or where you live. If you have a home, you probably have field dirt on your property that you got from somewhere. So, and I get it. I've heard several people say it already, not in my backyard. As a commissioner, Mr. Udell, you've heard it, NIMBY, not in my backyard. We all need it, but nobody wants it in their backyard. We hear it about cell phone towers. We hear it about poultry houses. We hear it about solar fields. They're all needed, but nobody wants it in their backyard. I totally get it. I get it. It's a tough spot for us to be in. I mean, we hear threats, we hear accusations, we got a day job too. And we care about the citizens, we care about what y'all have to say, but sometimes we got to make some really tough decisions, because at the end of the day, if this guy and this guy run out of dirt, the roads stop, the house pads stop, everything stops if these guys don't have clean dirt that's packable to build on. It's a necessary evil in one word. So we have to have it. I'm just going to say that. I'm not saying I'm for it or against it. That's kind of the obvious, in my opinion. But does anybody have anything to add to that? These are not fun decisions to make.
Well, I just like the public to understand that we have to sit here kind of like a judge. We have to weigh that decision between that landowner and you landowners. And I'm personally a property rights guy, and I don't want nobody telling me that I can't dig dirt off of my land that I pay taxes on. And so I have a hard time dealing with that, as far as telling somebody, no, you can't do what you want to do with your property. And I'm sure everybody else here would have a problem with that too. If somebody was telling you, no, you can't do that. And I think we can come to some kind of happy medium with all of you, or I would think so. I mean, we're talking about planting a buffer, we're talking about paving the road in, so that cuts out on the dust coming out. He's putting in a gate, there's a gate inside so the trucks don't have to sit out on the road. How many trucks are you running?
3 currently.
3 trucks. So if you ran them all day, how many loads would you get out of that pit a day?
The maximum, I would say 30, and that's at the best case scenario.
So it's 3 trucks. I mean, you do the math depending on where he's going. That's what we got. That's all I got.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just address one thing.
Yes, sir.
Before, I know the board's about to get to the point of deliberation, just to make the board aware of what the standard here, and if the board's inclined to deny, we're going to have to fill out the form, and here's the findings that the board will need to make. 1, what is the legal basis for denial? 2, what is the record evidence that was presented during the hearing today, not outside the hearing, but in the hearing? Remember, you are judges, which supports that finding. So if you're going to deny, that's what you're going to have to answer those questions on the record in writing, and that will have to be made part of the record.
Fair enough. Any other questions for Mr. Morrison?
No, Mr. Chairman, I was going to ask Mr. Meeks if he knows. I have one of these, which it was here before me. But I can't hear you. I'm sorry. I have a pit like this, I think, in my district, 136. I don't want to call it the business name, but I will, the Dirt Man. I mean, he's out there. He comes and goes daily. I mean, I'm not saying this that you guys won't fill this effect, but I honestly haven't received any calls is what I'm saying. Again, he's off the road, like this gentleman's saying 200 feet off the road, something like that, but were those requirements, were you here when that pit was done? No? Okay, I was just wondering what those requirements were.
And a lot of the pits or properties that have been historically dug has been either properties that were existing as dirt pits before the zoning regulations were adopted. I know we got some properties like around 49 area that was former Florida Rock property when all that stuff was going on.
River Road has one out there as well.
And then as well as the size of the excavation, the way the LDRs are written, like you're allowed to deal, and what's very common that we've seen is a lot of people who are in the field dirt business is willing to dig somebody a free pond in exchange for the dirt. So sometimes these people who have acquired dirt have not necessarily got their own pit, but have got somebody who would like to put in an acre pond or something like that, so they excavate that area for an agricultural pond, and they take the dirt in exchange.
Yeah.
You can, is it not, you can also do up to 10%
It's
of your property size?
An agricultural pond of 1 acre or 10% of the overall parcel.
Any other questions? Mr. Meeks? Do I have a motion to approve or deny the permit?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Commissioner Hale?
Just before, if you don't mind, I know the attorney was writing down some conditions. Could he go over those?
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind.
Mr. Morrison, would you mind stating some of those, reading some of those conditions that you were discussing earlier?
All right, so from what I heard, the conditions would be, if it was unanimous to instill these conditions, it would be condition 1, to build and maintain a 50-foot buffer surrounding the entire parcel, made out of pine, initially to be built out of pine trees, and no use of it, no removal of fill until such time as the County Extension Office certifies that that buffer is up, active, and working. 2, that they'll pave the road that the trucks will be using into the property to go, I put quote, past the houses that are adjacent to the parcel. 3, they will maintain water trucks on the premises to be there to be used as needed to mitigate any dust in the air. 4, in the event that there's a test requested by the health department, they won't have any objection and will facilitate any testing of the well that they're going to maintain there, and that well will be what it's being used for the water trucks. The only other thing that was discussed by the board was what to do about the gopher tortoises, but I don't think we need to put that in our conditions because that's going to be a condition of water management, and quite frankly, I think it'd be best to defer to water management's dealing of those than substituting our judgment for theirs. So it would be those 4 conditions.
Okay. Any other questions, Commissioner Hale?
No, the only other thing, again, I'm not nitpicking, I'm just trying to be a good neighbor, as I said before. I also have a...
Hey, Commissioner Perkins, hold on 1 second.
I also have a landfill in my district on Boys Ranch Road.
Speaking to the mic.
I also have a landfill on Boys Ranch Road in my district, and from time to time, when it's been raining, those trucks, and I know that's what part of the asphalt being put down for, is to capture that before it gets to the road. But in the event, and this would be to Mr. Norton, in the event any of that debris, big chunks of dirt, whatever, made it onto the county road, would you guys clean that up without us having to send county resources out there to do so? Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Perkins. You got something? Okay.
Well, I need to make that, the way I would frame that is there be an agreement to go ahead and clean up the road, failing which indemnification to the county for any costs associated with picking up. Is that correct? Yes. Does that satisfy what you
Satisfy you, Commissioner Hale? Yes.
Okay. And then one other thing that Commissioner Perkins was saying to me about the paving was it would be a non-pervious paving of the road.
asphalt or some other material, concrete.
Okay.
No millings, no lime rock, asphalt, or something impervious.
Do you have a specified width on there?
He said 2 trucks. So what kind of width you gonna do on that?
Where it's surface?
20 foot?
Yeah, that'd be plenty, I would think.
Traditional.
I mean, they're not gonna be passing each other all the time, so if that's what y'all wanna do. But there again, none of these matter if it doesn't get approved.
Just if you've got a paved road, it should be a standard of the road. If it's internal, I don't know if you want to go 18 foot on wearing surface or 20 foot on wearing surface.
Does it matter 18 or 20 foot?
It's whatever the board's discretion is.
18 foot should be fine.
18 foot.
No truck will pass there.
18 foot.
It's fine.
All right, guys, you've heard some potential conditions. So either we need a motion to approve and a second to vote on this, or I'm going to say this permit is denied due to lack of motion and a second. All right. Permit's denied due to lack of a motion. Public hearing's closed. All right. All right. Anyone that was here for item number 8, y'all are free to dismiss if you'd like to go home. We're going to continue business, so if you would, please exit orderly, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, the next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. On the, oh shoot, we got another time specific, I'm sorry. At 5:35, item number 7, at 5:35 p.m. or soon thereafter, as the matter can be heard, hold a public hearing to consider LDR 25-01, an application by Proactive Investments, authorized agent for US Highway 90 Land Trust, number 129, Deeds Law, LLC as trustee, to amend the official zoning atlas of the land development regulations by changing the zoning district from agricultural 1A1 to commercial neighborhood CN. Mr. Ron Meeks.
Mr. Chairman, board members, this is a request to amend the zoning on a 1.29 acre parcel. The subject property ended up being a leftover portion out of a previously approved subdivision known as Falmouth, I think it was Falmouth Acres. Falmouth Acres was subdivided, and for some apparent reason, this triangular shaped portion of property that fronts US 90 was left out of that plat. So the property is actually a non-conforming property by way for use of residential purposes. But under the land development regulations in the rural area of the county, if a property is located on a collector or arterial road, it allows the availability of a commercial neighborhood to be established, which can provide a limited commercial need for a limited population or geographic area. So the applicant has applied for a zoning change to change the zoning from agricultural 1 to commercial neighborhood. Typically with these neighborhood commercial zonings, we see like convenience stores, like we have in the rural areas of the county, and also providing gas needs to those general areas as well. So as with any other zoning application, you can't approve or deny an application for rezoning for a specific issue. When you approve a zoning, you're basically saying that everything that is permitted within that zoning district can go there. So we're not aware of any specific project at this time that's associated with this rezoning request, but at this point in time seems to be the highest and best use of this otherwise non-conforming 1.29 acre parcel of property. So you have a proposed ordinance in your packet for adoption if the board so chooses to approve the request. And at this time, I would enter the file into the record.
It's admitted as one.
Thank you, Mr. Meeks. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Meeks? Mr. Meeks, I got one. And this may be a Mr. Morrison question. I think this has been asked before, but I don't remember the answer. Can a reason for denial be for speculative purposes due to for instance, like you kind of hinted on, there's no project here. This is kind of speculative that there may that a sale might occur and a project would come. That's the way it appears to me.
Yeah, you can utilize the property, right now, as far as submitting an application for residential usage as a non-conforming property, but under neighborhood commercial, there's not a minimum lot size, so they're not held to a density requirement.
Mm-hmm.
So they would only need enough land in order to accommodate whatever size building that they would build.
The standard for denial, Mr. Chairman, would just be something, in the lack of evidence, so long as it's articulable, it'll probably be enough.
And we're changing it from what to what?
Currently agricultural one. It's just located a little bit west of where your I-10 and US 90 interchange is.
Is it in the employment center or any of that?
It's not. It's just west of that.
So I'm glad you asked that, Commissioner White. Here's my concern is, number one, is outside the employment center, which is basically close to the interstate interchange of I-10 and US 90. My only concern is here we have a 1.29 acre parcel that's in the county. It is on an arterial road. As we see with some special permits that go to planning and zoning, you have mechanic shops, for instance, that pop up in residential areas. My concern is that we change this to commercial. We're opening up a whole lot more uses for this piece of property outside the employment center, inside an agricultural zoned area. So and I get it, it's a non-conforming at 1.29, so I'm guessing it's probably 1 per 5 on the ag zoning right there because it fronts the highway. So it's less than the 5 acres, so this is a piece of property, I guess, that kind of got left out there.
Would that be spot zoning since it's not in the employment center?
It would not be, because the commercial is different. So your employment centers would have more of your intensive commercial uses under like your commercial highway interchange, your industrial areas and things like this. A neighborhood commercial is really probably the most limited commercial that there is, because like when you look at the allowable uses that goes there, it allows for it's probably its most intensive usage is retail outlets for the sale of food, drugs, and hardware. So, it's really like, if you want to have a small hardware store, you can do that. It allows for like a barber shop. It allows for like a
gas station,
self-service, dry cleaner, laundry pickup, that type of stuff. It's really not as intensive uses. There's probably more, I would probably say, more intensive uses that are allowed under a special exception in an A1 district than you may have in a commercial neighborhood. Most every commercial neighborhood that's within this county has a convenience store. Okay.
I guess what I'm trying to say is we as a board should probably heed caution to setting a precedence to where anything that comes up out in the county that is a non-conforming lot, boom, we make it commercial neighborhood with no intention use, and then we have what could be, like, I don't know who lives next to these properties, but a barbershop could go there next year doing 100 haircuts a day. Well, if the neighbor knew that, they probably won't live next to a barbershop with 100 cars coming and going every day. I'm just saying we should be mindful.
I don't disagree with it. Also giving how close it is to.
This one is very close to the interchange.
That's right.
Yes,
absolutely.
it is.
Yeah. Be different if it was in the middle of nowhere and there was a need for that somewhere, but.
100%. Yeah. I just, like I say, I'm not going to be sitting up here forever, neither nor any of you guys, but I don't want to set the precedence for boards that follow us that anything that's non-conforming, we just make commercial neighborhood and it goes away. Somebody sells the property and boom, a business pops up that nobody wanted there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But you couldn't build a home there, could you, Mr. Meeks?
Right. So it's only usable technically is if we change the zoning, or allow the zoning to be changed, I should say, or the adjoining landowner absorbs it and he sells to them, should they want to purchase. And this
then the property goes away as an individual parcel.
Correct.
So it's just absorbed into the boundary of something else.
So I say all that to say that this won't be the last time we see a parcel like this. So do as you may.
And don't we have just more west of there, close to the state parks and other areas that are already commercial?
Well, you have the area that used to be the old Falmouth store, which is a commercial neighborhood, which is not open at this time. And then kind of the commercial area in that general location kind of moved more towards Ellaville, which you have the rural activity center there. It started out as a commercial neighborhood, but when we established those rural activity centers, that was the commercial area on that side of town. So it took the footprint of the store where it existed and the lot next door to it to start that rural activity center. But the way that the store originally started was under a commercial neighborhood zone.
Any other questions for Mr. Meeks, guys?
No, sir.
I got to open the floor to public comment. Is there anybody from the public wishing to speak on this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Any board discussion? Or any other questions for Mr. Meeks or Mr. Morrison?
If I can, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, just to articulate in the event that the board chooses to go to deny based upon what you pointed out, I would put the legal basis for denying the application based upon, this isn't a legal one, but basically the law of unintended consequences. And insufficient evidence to figure out appropriate use based upon the record before it.
I mean, I should follow up what I said by saying this. This one is very close to the interstate interchange. It is on US 90. If this was on 180th Street in Lurville, I'd be a hard no.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is not the place for a speculative commercial piece.
I think that, but I do think what we can say based upon this, because the record just says, hey, we want to change it. I don't think there's anything wrong with you saying with why. And so unless and until we know the reason for the zoning change, we're going to deny it. And I think that'll pass legal muster.
Fair enough.
What the intended use would be.
Okay. I mean, I think if you had an intended use, I think that there wouldn't be any questions as long as the use was an acceptable one.
Right.
I think I'm a little cautious because I just want to give away a zoning not knowing of any intended use, you know, in being respect to the neighbors that are there now. If I sit here and vote yes on this tonight and I give this piece of property, which is non-conforming, a commercial neighborhood, I don't even know who owns this piece. It doesn't matter. 6 months from now, they sell it to McDonald's, food. I'm gonna have some mad folks. So,
Yeah, but
I guess that's why I'm kind of talking about this, talking through this.
A lot of that goes back to what the district intent is for a neighborhood commercial. When you read that district intent, it is to serve a limited population of geographic area. So it's not to build a McDonald's, it's not to build a restaurant. You know what I mean? The way that those typically function is, you can buy gas. They do allow for the gas station side of it, but it is a place to go in and buy a drink or, you know, a gallon of milk, loaf of bread, and the way you have like the Lurville store or Taylor store function, where you have, in the way that the Javier store functioned originally as, you know, you can go in and most of it's a to-go only really situation. They make sandwiches and things like that, but most of it's to-go. It is a smaller scale commercial, and traditionally most of the time these neighborhood commercials, just for picking the prime spot, are always located at intersections, but it's not a requirement that it be an intersection.
I understood. I was just reading off the application where it says the property is suitable for uses such as retail outlets for food or hardware, service establishments like barbershops or laundromats, and small automobile service facilities. It doesn't say about how, no disrespect, Mr. Meeks, but it doesn't say anything about a limited amount of food, retail outlets for food. It just says retail outlets for food. So anyway, I'm just...
No, there's some limitations in square footage, and I think you have to go back to your district intent as well.
Yep.
So, Mr.
I'm being
Chairman,
hypothetical, so move on.
how I've got this worded, if that's how the board chooses to go, as the legal basis for denying the application, the board cites insufficient evidence of proposed use, and the competent and substantial evidence which supports the board's denial is the application is devoid of information how the parcel will be used. Without knowing how the parcel will be used, the board cannot agree it is an appropriate zoning change.
Yes, sir. Oh, I'm the chairman, so I can't make that motion.
Well, no, but if
to approve
that's,
that,
but that's how it's been
unless
discussed.
I pass the gavel. However, after the last item we just heard, I mean, I'm erring on the side of the adjoining landowners and the neighbors before I just make a random, yes, you can have your commercial neighborhood, but I have no idea what their intended use is.
If that's the way the motion is, I'll make it.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hale to adopt Mr. Morrison's motion as stated.
So it would be,
For denial.
For denial.
Yeah.
so it would be,
Until we know
be,
we know the intent, if that's something that are covered, I mean, again, protecting the neighbors. and being
Do I have a
stewards.
second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner White. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion's denied, or motion passes on the denial, 5-0. We'll close that public hearing.
Logan, I'll get this to you tomorrow.
That is all the time-specific consent agenda, items number 2 through 6. Any questions, comments, or concerns on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Have a motion. I'm going to go with Perkins. I think he was first. Commissioner Perkins, motion to approve, and a second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. The consent agenda passes 5-0. We got some folks here that I know are here for item number 9. I'm going to skip down to item number 9 so you guys can get dismissed and go to dinner. So let's go to number...
You gotta go to bed.
I mean, y'all have patiently sat through here and watched us get our butts kicked for 2 hours.
You don't know about that.
So, Mr. Udell, you know all about sitting up here for 2 hours getting your
I
butt
was
kicked.
going to say, Mr. Udell was having flashbacks listening to all that.
Yeah, I think he was feeling sorry for us.
Yeah.
But at any rate, number 9 is discussed with possible board action, 89th Road. Mr. Douglas Udell.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
I want you to know that I appreciate what you're doing in my county, and I use that term "my" because it is my county as well as it's yours. The job that you're doing, I really appreciate. I don't come to the meetings that often, but believe me, I keep up with what each and every individual on this board is doing. And I'm just giving you a good moment. I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
You have some very controversial and difficult decisions to make, but I don't have one of those for you tonight. I have the most easiest one you're ever going to vote on as a county commissioner.
You selling cars for a living?
He'll sell anything.
Sell the road.
I came before you today, as I said, this is non-controversial, and I'm asking for your unanimous approval from each board member, because I know I listened to the young man who was here earlier with the cowboy hat on why he moved to Suwannee County. Mr. Ellis did this almost 100 years ago. Douglas M. Udell did this 54 years ago. It's a good place to raise a family, good place to live, and I certainly admire this Ellis family, their friends, for asking that this happen to change 89, not change 89 Road, being aware of addressing and GPS. 89 has to stay there, but add Ellis Lane to that in honor of their mother, their father, and their brother. And if you read the brief history, I'm sure all of you got one, I hope you did, hope you read it. I think that you have to agree that these people are worthy of this memorial in honor of their father, their mother, and their brother. They was great contributors to Suwannee County. As you read in there, he participated in everything. Gave this road for people to have access to their property that was landlocked. He was not a selfish person. He willingly gave it. It's approximately two miles long, and at the end of the post, having read this brief synopsis of the Ellis, Miss Carter Ellis, Miss Susan Ellis, and their son, I'll be more than happy to give you one of the copies. Or I'll make some copies. You can stop by the office and give up. But they only have just 2 in there left now. So that's what we ask you, gentlemen. No need of me reading all of this again, is it? You familiar with it?
Yes, sir. I read it. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, sir. So please let this old man have a good night.
Mr. Udell, you probably do not know this, but I had the privilege of knowing Mr. and Mrs. Ellis. My mother took care of them, or whatnot for many years, and I've had the privilege of knowing I don't know any better folks than the Ellises.
Let me mention one more thing for public. Mr. Ellis was featured on national TV with Charles Perrault. Any of you old enough to remember the old program with Charles Perrault? He was featured on that, of how raising the best hogs for pork chops. Crossbreed method that he utilized to raise the hog to the most lean meat or whatever it takes to make good pork. And believe it or not, that method of crossbreeding has been perfected in the Carolinas and the big hog farms where he's from. This is some research that I did. I mean, it just overwhelmed me. So this person, their work. Let me stop. You guys won't do it. I believe that.
Yes, sir. And I would agree with that. I mean, I don't care about skin color, but you won't find a better person or better people than the Ellis family. I don't care creed, color, it doesn't matter. Those were some fine people, super fine people, and Suwannee County is a better place because they were here.
Well, I'll sit down as soon as you all go.
Yes, sir. Here's what I'm going to say, though. I'm going to read this to you. I'm in support. I'm in total support of this. I'm going to say this to the board. Every board member here got this email, and I'm going to ask. Yes, sir. Come back up here real quick, because I'm going to ask for your help. Here's an email. I'm going to read it really quickly of an issue where the board we're going to have to figure something out here, because there's a lot of these brown signs that are popping up. Although I totally support this.
Well, let me mention it. I think I know where you're going. We're not changing 89 road.
Correct.
Stays there.
Correct.
Just adding signage. Ellis Lane.
Right.
That will not interfere with address and not interfere with GPS.
100%.
Okay.
But I want to read you this email just so you know what some of the 911 dispatchers, some of the problems that they've had in the past. So that this board going forward, I think that if this board goes to hanging brown signs on every single road, we're going to have a problem at some point, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, because we're going to be compromising the 911 system that I think you might have been a part of when they implemented that.
And
so you're very well of that.
Yes, I am.
So I'm going to read this really quick, just so the public knows, and I guess so we can maybe send the message that we're not going to do this for every single road, but in cases like the Ellises, I hope that this board will agree with me and support this. But I'm going to read this really quick so that the public is aware of some of the problems that we could face. It says, I'd like to go on the record. This is from the Director of Communications Division. I'd like to go on the record and say that it is my professional standpoint and view as Communications Director of Suwannee County Sheriff's Office that I do not feel it is in the best interest to rename the numbered roads in the county as a whole. The brown sign initiative, which are the brown signs that are, they're just brown. The brown sign initiative that was led by a previous county administration has without a doubt caused addressing issues and response time issues within public safety. I'm not able to place a definite number of times since its implementation. However, I can attest that in the last 2.5 years of supervising the Communications Division, where both 911 and non-emergency public safety calls for service are processed, we have had numerous occasions where the brown sign is what the callers refer to, and that does not coincide with our 911 addressing maps or our dispatching database, causing a delay in service for the first responders. With that said, I feel we as a county should not consider renaming or secondary naming the roads. We should reevaluate the current brown signs that are already placed throughout the county and consider relying back on our proven county addressing system. That's not my email. Don't shoot me. I just read that so that the public was aware.
Yes.
This could be an issue if we start going. However, I fully support the Ellises.
I won't be
100%.
back. I will not come back.
I just wanted to say that to this board too.
Okay.
So if we have 3 people show up next to Tuesday from now and say, I want my brown sign, it's going to be Land Road. Like, whoa, wait a minute.
Well, maybe I should. I hope I've made myself clear. We're not asking for 89 Road to be discontinued.
Right.
89 Road, Ellis Lane, one sign. Will not change the addressing. I'm totally cognizant of what you read. I was one of the persons here when this was implemented.
That's right.
And that was discussed at that time, that you could make these changes, but they would be official for the community and everybody else. but addressing would still be 89 Road.
Right. If you move on
punch
this
in
road,
89
yeah.
Road, you're gonna go straight there.
That's right.
Regardless of what's beyond 89 Road.
Right.
Which will be Ellis Lane.
Right.
If you guys so kindly.
Yes, sir. I just want to put that out there so
Thank
the
you.
public knows that when they
Yes,
dial
yes.
911, we want the
I
first
appreciate
responders
that.
to get there as quickly as possible.
I
If we
appreciate
start
that,
renaming roads, would just be an addition to.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Any questions, comments from Mr. Udell? or-
No, I just, I would agree with you. I knew Mr. Ellis very well. Spent much time down there at my store,
Good man.
groceries and all, but,
Yes.
and I'm not opposing, I'm like you, I don't have a problem with it, but I guess I'm sitting here thinking about it and y'all discussing it and what we read here. Would it be, what if we didn't do just a brown sign? I mean, what if once you turned on that road, you know, more of just a sign that said in memory of Mr. Ellis Lane or Ellis Parkway or something, as soon as you turn on that road there, that way it doesn't impede with actual 911, you know what I'm saying? A separate sign.
Separate sign.
A separate sign on a separate pole, maybe even more decorative than just a brown sign.
I'd ask Mr. Udell his thoughts.
Maybe
on
I
that.
didn't make maybe I'm not making myself clear enough. The 89 Road sign that is there, a little bit longer, just past 89 Road, Ellis Lane. And that's all we're asking. It
I
won't
think
change
you
anything.
misunderstood. I'm asking for something a little better than that.
Oh, you want,
You see what I mean? I'm asking for another sign, maybe.
Yes, if you put that on Ellis Lane, anything else you want to add, Mr. Hale, we'd be graciously appreciate it.
You understand what I'm saying, though?
I think what Mr.
You can't honor this man too much.
If I'm hearing what Mr. Hill's saying, he's saying to put a sign after you turn on
Yes.
Ellis Lane, to
Right
put a
there.
single
Yes.
sign there that says, this road is in honor of Mr. and Mrs. Carby Ellis or Carby and
Something
Susan,
like that.
whatever you.
Great, great.
Yeah, versus putting it on the top in brown or whatever, just a whole separate sign
Family.
there, you know?
You hear this? They're here tonight.
Yes.
You in agreement with this?
Yes.
Fantastic.
I mean, are y'all good with that? I mean, just something a little, that way it doesn't mess up our 911 folks.
Commissioner White's wanting to speak.
Well, I just want to ask the attorney something. Is there any ordinance or anything about putting those brown signs on? Have we
Yes.
been back and approved that, or is it still banned?
So the ordinance is 92-01, and here's what it says, quote, all public, and I'm reading section 3, streets and name changes, and this is still the applicable ordinance. All public and private ways within the unincorporated area of Suwannee County shall have county-assigned numbers and/or names, with numbers used predominantly as the official road identifier. A, street names shall be used when diagonal directional ways necessitate name usage. Such usage shall be determined by the county. B, street and road names existing on the date of adoption will cease to be recognized unless approved by the board. Under no circumstances will public and private ways have duplicate names. But if we look at the initial, it just says the numbers have to be used primarily as the road number, and that's been interpreted, the Brown Sign Initiative. It's, 89th Road with the sign underneath that says Ellis Lane or something like that. So what Mr. Udell is asking for is permissible, I think, under as written, so long as you don't, you can't get rid of 89th Road, but you can add.
I was just making sure we didn't have to, there wasn't an ordinance in place that we'd have to change in order to do this,
No,
is what I was asking.
The interpretation has been to permit that.
You good, Commissioner White?
Well, and I just one other comment. I don't want to be doing this every other meeting. I appreciate y'all, and I understand y'all are great people, and Mr. Ellis was a great person, and I don't have a problem doing this one, but I'm just saying, we can't do every road in the county.
Well, that's why I read the email, because I agree with you. We can't set a precedent that next two Tuesday from tonight, the Land family shows up and won't say a road name, like, whoa, Land
So I just think the board's going to have to take I'm just saying, you're just going to have to take a hard look at what you're doing there, because that could really get out of hand pretty quick.
Right.
That's what I have to say.
Can I make a recommendation, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I mean, there's a fix here, at least in terms of doing it here and then disallowing the precedent. The fix is this. Do what it says, add the brown sign, however you want to do it, and then amend the ordinance and just say, no further road changes will be permitted in the county for in the unincorporated area.
That It's gonna make some folks mad, but it's gonna make Mr. Udell happy.
If we do that, we just want to put the sign separate from the other sign.
No, but that'll solve the problem of.
I'm actually good with that because I mean, I'm good with that. Board, can I have a motion to approve, Mr.?
I'll make a
So
motion.
moved.
I got a motion.
It's in my district, so.
I got a motion by Commissioner Motley to approve the
So
brown
moved.
sign
Second.
for Ellis Lane.
Ellis Lane.
Have a second by Commissioner Perkins. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. 5-0, Ellis Lane. Brown sign. Now, what I would ask this board to consider going forward is we change that address, ask the county attorney to
Amend
fix
it.
us an ordinance to where there's no more name changes on county roads, because if we continue to do this, we're going to compromise the 911 addressing system, and then that's going to end up costing somebody their life, because they're calling 911 saying, I live on Land Road, and the 911 dispatcher will be like, where the hell is Land Road? I got whatever, 120th Street.
And honestly, and you're right, Mr. Chairman, because, you know, there may be, the next board may think different than us, and they can.
And they can unchange it, but for us, board, we said it, this is what it is, and then going forward, should another situation come forward, we handle it by case-by-case basis, and we do, in addition, we don't do the brown sign, we do a sign after you turn on the road, like you were talking about, Commissioner Hale, it says this road is in memory of Mr. and Mrs. Carby Ellis, something like that, so we're not compromising the street signs on top of stop signs, but we're doing this one.
Okay, I'll make sure I understand.
Yes, sir.
On this 89th Road sign that is there,
Yes, sir.
Ellis Lane gonna be added to it?
We're going, I think what
Underneath.
on top of it or underneath
Yeah.
it, we're going to do, on top of it, above it, we will do the Ellis Lane.
That's right.
On top, in the brown and white, like you, like.
That's right.
Like, the brown signs are already there. Miss Ellis family, are y'all good with that?
That's good.
Good.
That's good.
Thank you. Thank you very
Good deal.
much.
Good
Mr.
deal.
Chairman,
Reminds me of old times, Mr. Mayor. Make you want to think about maybe coming back. Good man.
All right, Udell, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Udell.
we'll coordinate to do appropriately.
Yeah. Okay. We have,
All right, classmate, take care.
good to see y'all, Ellis family. Yes, ma'am, good to see y'all. Thank y'all for coming out.
Take care, all right?
Over there, one of their faces, you see them?
Yes, ma'am, sure. Yes, ma'am, really quickly. If you don't, I think Mr. Udell's buying dinner for everybody at the Brown Lantern.
Better hurry up.
I'm the youngest, Bobby Ellis. There's 16 of us. I just moved back. I just moved back to Suwannee County. It's always a beautiful place to live. My parents would be very proud. And there's some of us still living out there on the farm today. So thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank y'all for coming. I'm so happy to do it. We have, let's finish this agenda. Additional agenda item.
I've got something I do need to bring up under county attorney items, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
We got to
You
do
got one
consent
additional.
first.
You can see it.
Can we do this one additional agenda item really quick?
You want to do consent first?
We already did. We did that.
Did you?
Yeah, you were sleeping.
Read that additional.
Additional agenda item number 1, approval of payment of Florida Gulf and Atlantic Railroad in the amount of $6,000 for flagging services, and authorize the finance department to release a check. Budget impact to be paid from grant funding.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Hale to approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Perkins. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. For the public's knowledge, this is needed for construction that's going on at the catalyst site. They need to have approved railroad flaggers for the trains. That's that. Constitutional officers. Any constitutional officers present wishing to speak? Any staff members present wishing to speak? Good. Commissioner items. Any commissioner items?
I just wanted to add something here, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Perkins.
I was in a meeting about the CDBG grant, and but also in touch with some people there that deal with the grants. there's a plethora of money out there, and I understand it just came open. And I think Shannon, maybe I spoke with him a little bit about it. He can speak to it as well. The federal government is passing down there now for our state that we've been in this disaster some crazy money, I think around $930 million that can be divided amongst the 6-7 counties. And I think if we look at it, the math, I think somewhere around in the $13 million could be to each county or so. But I think, Shannon, if I wouldn't like to dig into it to see that money should be coming available soon. And that can be done for a CBG grant. I think we have money for roads or repairs or different things like homes. So it's a lot of money that's being sent out there. So I'd like for our team to look into it to see when we get our share of the pie.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, any money that's flowing downstream that we could get, that we could catch.
Yeah, I think, Shannon, you heard about it also, didn't you, that money? It's crazy money, but it's here.
Yep.
I think someone was talking about the money that I know that the president is doing some cutbacks and some other things there, but he also sent some money down that made available. So I think we can need to, check into it.
100%. I would agree with you. Ask Shannon to stay on top of that and make sure no fish gets by us without us catching it.
That's right.
I like it. Any other commissioner items? County Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One matter, I'll keep it as brief as I can. The county's been sued regarding the Zoning Board of Adjustment. You may remember there was a bunch of upset folks regarding an application to put some kind of automotive shop in a development. The named party, Mr. Pravat represents the plaintiffs who are suing the county. The named defendants is the Zoning Board of Adjustment and the county. Mr. Decker and I have been talking about who's going to handle the representation. I have a conflict, so to me it just seems easier to leave it with Mr. Decker, who's the attorney for the Zoning Board. I just wanted to get y'all's approval for that Mr. Decker handle that, so that way he can be off and running and there's not an issue about who's handling it. So AJ Decker's already the attorney for the Zoning Board, and he's up to speed on it anyhow.
He's there. Let him know.
Yeah, if he's the attorney.
Does he work for county attorney rates?
He's already under contract. He's already under contract. It'll be under his.
I'm just messing with you.
I understand.
Do you need approval for that?
Yes, sir, just to make everything clear.
Is everyone okay with the Planning and Zoning Board attorney, Mr. AJ Decker, handling that case? Mr. Morrison has a conflict on the particular matter.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner White to allow.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. 5-0.
Thank you, and I'll let Mr. Decker know.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else, Mr. Attorney?
No, sir.
Consultants, any consultants wishing to speak tonight? We've already handled, under general business, we already handled number 9. We've already handled item number 10, additional agenda item, sir.
I have a young lady in the back there that she came over here from Hamilton County, Miss Jennifer. She needs to, I don't know if she wants to speak.
Yeah, sure.
Can you say something here?
Absolutely. Just, if you would, come to the podium, Miss, man, so we can hear you.
In the presence of time, I'm going to just do an introduction tonight, and then we can, I guess, meet at another time and
Give Mr.
discuss.
Mr. Scott one of that, please. Thank you.
And discuss the option if you guys want to proceed or not.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Try to be quick.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Man, you sat here for this too, huh?
Yes, I commend all of you. It took courage to stand your ground tonight. I know that was a tough decision to make.
Yes, ma'am.
So my name is Jennifer Gizzoni, and I'm going to be real brief. I run a nonprofit organization called Florida Youth Charitables. What we have been doing in Hamilton County is working through a grant called the National Dislocated Workers Grant. What it is in short terms is there was funding that was made available because our communities were hit by 4 hurricanes within a very short, brief time. The Department of Labor put this money aside anytime there's a natural disaster. And so the Department of, how it works is the Department of Labor has the money, they distribute it to Florida Commerce. Florida Commerce then works with CareerSource, and CareerSource picks a nonprofit, which is what we are, to manage the funding and manage the work that needs to be done. So I took up training with the emergency management director in Hamilton back in October. I trained for a month to get an understanding of the lay of the land. And then we started selecting the team. We found that there were a huge number of unemployed people that had been unemployed for at least 6 weeks or more. That is one of the criteria. You have to be a U.S. citizen, you have to be 18 years or older, and you have to be unemployed. So we found over 75 people applied within a 2-week period, and I only had 13 positions available. So we started working on December the 5th. We cleaned up the city of Jasper and the county around Jasper within 2 months and with 13 individuals. And we would say that the city of Jasper and that surrounding area is 95% clean now. We have chainsaws, we have skid steers, we have dump trailers. What we do is we go into an area, we use Crisis Cleanup, which is the software that all your major companies use, like Rubicon, the church chainsaw groups. And so we utilize chainsaws, all that same equipment, and our team is OSHA certified. Everyone has to be OSHA certified and be certified to use chainsaws, skid steers, and drive dump trailers. We partnered with the city of Jasper, and they provided us with no fees to dump the debris from their residents' property. And they also assisted us until we had our equipment with chainsaw usage. Now that we have it, we don't need that part anymore. What the county did was the county provided us with funding for fuel, because it does take gas to run chainsaws, skid steers, and 2 vans with trailers and 2 pickup trucks hauling the skid steer and the dump trailers. So we have determined that in Suwannee County, you have a huge need. You have over 250 residents that need help with removing debris from their private property. Your county and your city workers can't do that. But because we are a nonprofit, we can go onto private property. We do not remove trees off of houses. We do not cut leaning trees. But any debris that is on the property that's down, that's what we clean up and haul off. So what the County of Hamilton did, which I would suggest after you have more information, you consider, is providing the fuel for us to do the work. We provide you with the reports, and you also work with us on the dumping fees. So we don't pay dumping fees in Hamilton at all. Because we wanted the area to be completely clean, because it's great, we move the trees, right? We haul it off, we cut them up and everything. But if people have debris like a sofa or a mattress or some debris that is not for a dump site but for a landfill, we haul that debris off as well. And the county gave us the approval for us to get that dump without any tipping fees. So it's just a way for you to beautify your town and your community without having to pay for labor. That's basically what we provide. So I know it's been a long night, and you probably have questions. I gave you pictures just so you could see what we do and how we leave it. We have a team of 26 now because we have 2 teams. I had petitioned for us to have 2 more teams in Suwannee, one for the farmers who have been hit really bad, and then another one just to clean up just residential properties. When the new administration stepped in, obviously all funding is now being reviewed, so we cannot hire any new individuals. But I assure you that the teams that we do have, the 2 teams, they are highly skilled and they've got quite a bit of experience in this because they've been doing it since December. We worked when it was 26 degrees. We work the only time we do not work is when it's raining, because it's just not a smart idea to have an electronic thing in your hand.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's why I came out tonight. That's why I stayed, because there is funding available and it's for our Tri-County area. I can tell you that Columbia chose not to utilize these fundings. They're charging their residents for any of the debris removal that is out there. Hamilton went a different direction, and I would encourage Suwannee to utilize the funding. It is there.
Good deal. I would ask Mr. Scott to get some more information and follow up with her through Mr. Perkins. I think you have her contact, and then maybe bring this back to us at our next board meeting in 2 weeks. But I mean, it sounds like a great idea, and I would encourage you to reach out to the city of Live Oak as well if you haven't
Yes,
already.
I know Mr. Sessions, so yes, I'll
Great.
reach out to him.
Great.
So, but we do not commingle funds, by the way. If the team is working in the county funds are used. If
Correct.
we're working in the city, then the city funds. That's why the reporting is so important. We do get audited by the federal government, so there is no, we are very good with our paperwork.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you for your
Appreciate you
time.
so much. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you,
I'm
Ms.
sure
Jennifer.
some of our staff members will be in contact with you.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for waiting. Item number 11, administrators' comments and information.
We've got one item that, just for clarity or action, we have, for the airport, there's a fuel truck that we have a grant for that you approved through DOT to buy a fuel truck. They give us $400,000 to do that, but it doesn't appear we asked for permission to go out to bid. We just like permission to go out to bid for that. It's no match, 100% money from DOT.
Questions, comments, concerns, or do I have a motion to approve to go out to bid on the purchase of a fuel truck?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner White, second by Commissioner Perkins. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. 5-0.
The only other thing is, when I was a kid working in the tobacco warehouses, Mr. Ellis brought us back in, and fine man, and he had the bluest eyes. I don't know if he had a problem with one of them or not, but just as a kid, just remember him as a fine man. So I have nothing else. Thank you all.
Did she say there were 16 children?
16.
Wow.
Or 18. I read it this morning. But.
Yeah.
Anything else, Mr. Scott?
No, sir.
We started down here last time.
Mr. Chairman, before you get started, we can do that, but I do want, Mr. Scott, will you please, just for public knowledge, because we're getting beat up about it, and I know you've been working hard on it, and maybe the board's knowledge to 76th Street, what
Okay.
we're doing, what's going on there.
76th Street was contracted out and put out to bid. Started working on the project. They were supposed to grind the asphalt because you got the old, base that was there, the old blacktop base. They had paved over it before. As they started grinding the millings, it started chipping up and stuff in hunks. Our CEI engineering firm and also the contractor got out and got their heads together, and they think it's best for that we go over and do a leveling course over that and then repaved. That road will be widened and resurfaced, but we think that's be the best bang for the buck. We think that we can cover the cost. There'll be a change order to do that next meeting, but it should be unless y'all would approve it tonight, but be no additional cost to do that. It'd be like a $200,000 savings currently on that. So, but it's going to be the better product when we get done.
If it's better, no problem.
Just bringing that to y'all's attention. Obviously, I think there's a few upcoming
Better
roads in
saving
y'all's
money.
districts, and it seems like
That's
these
good.
just seem to be popping up more often, so these issues. Yep.
Closing comments, Commissioner Hale.
Just thank everybody for coming out. Appreciate our county staff from top to bottom. I know we can't do this job without them, and appreciate the board. I know we have some hard nights up here, guys, but appreciate every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner White.
Oh, real quick, please, I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
I was all primed up, Don, and you just shut me down.
And please, Kenny Lamb, I don't know if y'all have heard, you see your Snap-on truck running around here. Keep him in your family and your prayers. He's in a bad way right now.
Really?
Yes. So we about lost him Friday. So
Wow.
Yeah. So keep the Lamb family in your prayers. Thank you.
Shouldn't have retired.
Commissioner White.
I'm not going to do anything. I just want to offer Ms. Griffith our condolences, and our hearts are with you. We just want you to know that. That's all I got, Chairman.
Commissioner Perkins.
Yes, just thankful to our staff, board. Thank you for y'all guys working hard. And our attorney giving the right advice. And also say that last week on the trip at Seminole, Electric had a great time there, and then at the NFPD meeting was great. Had a great time there, and to see that the function of that Seminole power plant in Putnam County was really, really neat. And then know that the outfall that came from there, they take and make drywall out of it. And that was very, very neat to see that, having the conveyor belt running from the power plant all the way over to the gypsum certainty plant to make that drywall. And our heart goes out to you, Ms. Stacy, for your family, praying for you. So.
You didn't say me and Mr. Hale went too.
Yeah, Mr. Hale and also Mr. White went with us over there. Thank you for Mr. Furry driving us, so he drove us over there. He did a great job. Mr. Scott ride with us. Man, we had a great time in the truck ride with the guys. Man, it was nice.
Marvin, I'm glad me and you stay back and work and get something done while they always off gallivanting.
But for the record, I did not ride with them because I don't trust none of them's driving. I drove myself.
Thank you, Commissioner Perkins.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Mobley.
I just appreciate everybody coming and everybody ready to go eat.
Is that all you ever say?
That's it.
Appreciate y'all for coming.
Well, don't forget, Chairman did let y'all know that Mr. Udell was buying dinner at the Brown Lantern.
I did say that, but I don't know if it's true or not.
I'm gonna go ask him.
Just go down there and say Doug Udell said he was buying and eat and leave.
Just tell Raleigh to put it on Udell's account.
Nah, I don't have anything. We took a hard leg tonight, so it's just funny. You sit up here and you get accused of not listening to the people, and you get accused of surety bonds. I don't even know what the hell that's about. But, you get accused of just we vote for you. You vote like it's just like you know what? Like I'm here, I'm listening. Like we haven't even voted yet, and you're already hammering. It's like no, it's just you hear it and you. You're up here, you live in this county more than 99% of the ones that spoke. You've been here longer, and you care more about the county than I can promise you. You probably care more about it than some of them even knew where we were at. You were caring about this county before they knew where Suwannee County was. But nonetheless, we signed up for it. It comes with the job, and I appreciate y'all sitting up here and being respectful, letting the people speak, even though it takes forever sometimes. And you don't get to thank you until they get what they want and they leave. Meantime, you're just a dumb SOB and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm just going to put it like it is. So, nonetheless, I appreciate y'all for sitting tight and listening and being respectful and taking the licks and doing what you felt best.
But you said it at the last meeting, and I'll just say this too, and I don't disagree with what you said there. I mean, because we were being judged before the judgment ever.
100%. You're judged before you ever make the judgment.
But again, I mean, and again, we signed up for it. We knew it was coming. But what we did not know, and what we cannot control, and what's going to end up happening as we keep growing, as people like that keep moving here, those pits, those things that they're going to need, we're going to have to address them at some point in time. And it's not always going to be in
the
that
best
favor.
place.
Yeah, and it's not going to be in the best place. I mean, I just don't know how we get around that. I just put it out there because there's going to be a day we can't do this.
You can't make everybody happy, but at some point, everybody's going to need field dirt, or everybody's going to need cell phone service, or everybody's going to need
lime rock.
I mean, they're going to, so it's just. There again, we signed up for it. Sometimes you got to make tough decisions. Sometimes they're easy. The Ellis Road, that's an easy one. I love those. Those are easy.
Yeah.
But the dirt pit, solar farm, solar fields, cell phone towers. I mean, like I said, we get judged before the judgments pass, and we're just a bunch of dumb SOBs until. Anyway, enough of that. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
You're passing cell towers.
Motion by Commissioner White, second by Commissioner Mobley. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed,
Perkins,
same
you
sign.
slacking down there, man.